Hey guys, welcome to the channel. This is part 2 of What If Naruto was in Rosario Vampire. If you guys enjoy this what if, then comment, like and subscribe. Also the video goal is 10 likes, so let me know that you're interested in the series and you want the next part. Then go ahead and check out the other what ifs in the channel. Before we start, please do support for more awesome content. Don't forget to subscribe and leave, also share the video with your friends and link in the description. So let's go. If that photography club member asks me to join one more time, suspension be damned, I'll deck him in the Naruto, just ignore them. They can't force you to join. Mizore sighed as they tagged along with Kurumu, Sukune, Mocha, and Yukari. She's right, Naruto. Besides, there are better clubs to join, like the chemistry club, or the fortune-telling club. Yukari beamed, we can make awesome potions and read the future. That way I'll know how to get Mocha-san to fall in love with. Or we could keep looking. Kurumu interrupted, knocking Yukari to the side a little. Naruto, why don't we go look at the baking or cooking clubs? I'm sure we can get lots of good recipes there. Naruto sighed as Yukari jumped onto Kurumu's back while stating that Naruto would never want to join a stupid club that she's not in. Naruto quickly moved around the soon-to-be cat fight, joining up with Sukune. What do you think, Sukune? There's too many choices here. Wait, what's salsa dancing? Sukune simply shook his head. I know what you mean. There's too many to take in. We can only join one club, too. He turned to Mocha and smiled. What club do you think would be fun? Well, Sukune-kun, I'd be happy to join any club you want to join. Sukune felt his face heat up a bit. Well, then maybe we should keep looking around, huh? Mocha blushed. Sure, Sukune-kun. Naruto decided to give the two some space, though Yukari and Kurumu didn't feel that leaving the two alone was such a good idea. Naruto laughed as the blue-haired succubus grabbed a hold of Sukune's arm while Yukari hugged Mocha's side. At least they won't lose each other in this crowd. Mizore commented, any idea on what you want to do? Naruto scratched his head while giving a chuckle, no clue whatsoever. Mizore nodded, well, I think I'm going to go with Kurumu. She said that she wanted to see the aromatherapy club, and I want to see if I can find any scented candles from my hometown. Candles? Naruto repeated, giving her a confused look. Why? Mizore was quiet for a moment before speaking. Well. I remember my mother telling me once that the flowers that grow where we live have a very, intoxicating effect on people when mixed with lavender. I just wanted to see if it's true. Naruto grinned, okay, Mizore-chan. I'll catch you later. He flashed her a grin while giving her a thumbs up. She smiled while heading off to catch up with their friends. Alright, if I was a cool club booth, where would I be? Naruto weaved around the crowds of students, passing by numerous other booths, all advertising their perks and activities for possible recruits. Naruto couldn't help but feel slightly unnerved as he passed by the groups that were predominantly female: hair care, perfume and cosmetics, fashion and design, and numerous others. Sure, there were male members in a few of them, but most of the men were around simply to flirt with the girls. Nevertheless, Naruto found numerous students, mostly girls, calling out to him. Oh, Naruto-kun, do you remember me? Gym class. One redhead called out, if you want, you can join our pottery club. Hey there, blondie, want to join the modeling club? We don't have many boys. Oh, he's a cute one. Hey, join our massage club. Naruto couldn't help but notice many of the boys around him giving him envious glares as girls continued calling out to him. He laughed nervously as he kindly declined their invitations. It took a good deal of willpower to turn down the lovely third-year girl who offered him a free massage, and continued onward. Karate club. Join now, learn the ways of unarmed combat. Sparring, technique, principles, all aspects are covered in this club. Naruto turned his head the moment he heard the word, sparring, and looked to see a rather tall and well-muscled male student shouting out to the crowds, drawing in a small audience. He sported a uniform of sorts, obviously a martial arts style, and had spiked hair and sharp eyes. Come on, you've got nothing to lose except a few weeks for rehabilitation if you get injured. The student continued, we'll even give you a demonstration. Any volunteers? Naruto grinned, I will. The student looked at him and grinned, haha. A first year with a pair finally speaks up. He waved to Naruto, indicating that he wanted him to follow him to a clearing behind the karate club's booth where a fighting mat was placed. Naruto stood on the other side of the mat while the man looked him over. What's your name? Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto Uzumaki, huh? I'm Haji Miyamoto, the captain of this club. He grinned. I've heard about you, you're supposedly one of the best first years in gym classes. Haji looked to one of the other karate members. Funato, I want you to spar with him. Go easy on him. Funato looked to be an upperclassman as well. He had brown hair and brown eyes, and stood a few inches taller than Naruto. Sure thing, Haji Taiko. Funato nodded before walking over to the opposite side of the mat, facing Naruto. He grinned a bit. You have any experience? The blonde shinobi shrugged. I have decent experience with taijutsu. Naruto began to mentally panic. The term taijutsu was used in a very broad sense in his world. Shinobi often liked to keep the name of their combat styles a secret, so the word taijutsu was an interchangeable term. He knew of various styles, but he didn't have a real style that he used himself. With that being said, he wasn't sure if these people knew what he meant. Funato looked confused at first, and as soon as Naruto opened his mouth to explain himself, the taller boy laughed. I get it. When I asked if you had any experience, I was asking if you knew any particular styles of fighting, like judo or karate. I suppose grappling itself can be considered a style, though. Since we just want to see what you can do, you don't have to worry about serious injury or anything like that. Feel free to use whatever style you like, though I'm going to be using karate. Naruto tried to keep the relief he felt from showing on his face, then threw his green jacket onto the ground nearby before getting into a stance. Hey, alright. Who makes first move? I will. Let's see how you react. Funato replied. A moment passed before Funato ran at Naruto, striking out with an open palm. Naruto quickly slapped the palm aside and grabbed the extended arm before turning back and flipping him over his shoulder. Funato landed on his back, quickly rolling to the side and laughing. Okay, looks like I deserved that one. You're obviously not a novice. Funato changed his stance up. Let's try this. Naruto ducked under a kick, and attempted to sweep his opponent off his feet. However, Funato quickly pulled his foot back. Naruto saw the heel coming towards him, and raised both arms to block. A small audience had gathered now. A few murmured Naruto's name while others simply spoke in awe of how the first year was putting up a fight against an experienced second year karate club member. Naruto quickly jumped back before sprinting forward. He blocked a fist from Funato before palm striking him in the shoulder. Funato grunted, taking a step back. Naruto backed off a bit to give Funato a chance to recover, smiling. So, where do I stand in rank? Hey, you've got more than a few years of experience on your belt. You obviously know more than just grappling, though. Funato replied. I can tell you're holding back, but so am I. That easy to see, huh? Naruto laughed. Funato quickly tried a grapple move of his own on, sweeping Naruto's feet from underneath him. Naruto reacted on pure instinct, using his sheer strength to throw Funato onto the ground to avoid being pinned by the second year. Naruto held a open palm in a striking position, mimicking what would have been the finishing blow. Do you submit? Funato blinked before sighing, a bitter smile on his features. I submit. The audience clapped as Naruto helped Funato to his feet, shaking his hand. Thanks, Funato-senpai. Sorry for embarrassing you like. Funato waved it off. It's fine. You're a good fighter, there's no shame in losing to someone who's good at martial arts. He laughed. Looks like I still have a lot to learn. Excellent job, Uzumaki-san. Haji spoke. I think you've proven yourself a capable fighter here. He extended his hand. We'd be honored to have you join us. Naruto thought for a moment. So you're Haji. I heard about you from other students. Naruto laughed. They say you're a good fighter yourself. Haji smirked a bit. Well, I don't like to blow hot air, but I am good at karate. I still have much to learn though. Improvement is a big part of our program, and it takes a lot of dedication and commitment. He gave Naruto a serious expression. We also take pride in our name. If you join our club, understand that you represent us both while wearing the uniform and not wearing the uniform. Naruto gave a nod. I understand. Will you join us then? The blonde mulled over the offer. He didn't know anyone in this club, but it'd be a chance to get to spar, and improve without hiding his skills in taijutsu. Count me in, Naruto spoke, shaking Haji's hand. That Tamao Ichino sure seems to be getting comfortable with Sukune-kun, grumbled Kurumu as she waited near the edge of the pool where the Youkai Academy's swimming club was stationed. Sukune had suggested they go take a look at the swimming club after seeing the beautiful members calling out to the other students to join them in the pool. Mizore had quietly excused herself, stating she wasn't that interested in swimming, and would talk to them later. Heading went off to see one of the other club booths. Mocha seemed a bit hesitant to follow, but Kurumu and Yukari were all for the idea. At the moment, the swimming club captain, Tamao Ichinos, was currently swimming alongside Sukune, her arms continually wrapping around the younger boy's arms to guide him. She would occasionally praise his form and technique, and offer advice to improve. Sukune wouldn't deny the fact that she was a beautiful woman, probably a few years his senior, but he was kind of disappointed that Mocha had yet to join him in the water as well. Yeah, well, at least he's enjoying himself, Yukari replied. The young witch turned towards one of the tables where Mocha was sitting. Hey, Mocha-san, why don't you join us? It's really warm in here, and Yukari-chan, I'd rather not. I'm not a fan of swimming. Mocha spoke, cutting Yukari off. Kurumu gave Mocha a perplexed look. Really? Why not? I just don't. Mocha replied, her voice a bit stern. Since Sukune seems to be enjoying himself so much with the other swimming club girls, I'll just leave. Sukune, who overheard the Rosette shouting, swam towards the others. Hey, wait, Mocha, that's not true at all. You don't understand, I just wanted to swim with you, that's all. Mocha turned sharply to face Sukune. No, you don't understand, Sukune. I can't. Before Mocha could finish, she was splashed with water. The Rosette screamed as she quickly backed away, looking to the culprit. Ichinos, who was beside Sukune, just shook her head. Mocha-san, while you're free to visit here, I don't tolerate fighting. It's unsightly on your part, deters others from coming over here, and above all else, is simply childish. Mocha's eyes looked at the moisture dripping down her arms and hair, and no, water. She quickly dashed off, leaving Sukune calling out to her. Kurumu turned towards Ichinos. Hey, you didn't need to splash her. Aren't you supposed to be trying to set an example for your club, being the captain and all? Ichinos chuckled lightly. Please, the last thing we need is an immature brat like her joining our club. Now, if you don't mind. She wrapped an arm around Sukune. Sukune-kun, let's continue swimming, shall we? But Sukune found himself being guided back into the deeper end of the pool while Yukari and Kurumu found themselves torn between going to Mocha and staying with Sukune. I'll go find Mocha. Yukari spoke, getting out of the pool. I'm getting a weird vibe from that Ichinos. Keep an eye on her and Sukune. Kurumu shrugged. Alright. Yukari quickly wrapped a towel around herself to dry off before heading towards the direction Mocha had run off to. Naruto grinned to himself as he held a white uniform in his arms. He felt a bit proud of himself to be accepted so quickly into a rather reputable club. The fact that other students looked at him in mild wonder, whispering his name as he walked by, made him feel on top of the world. The shinobi within him, however, reminded the rest of his brain that he shouldn't let this go to his head, and that many older shinobi could easily run circles around the karate club. Gai-sensei, for starters, was easily the most physically fit man Naruto had ever met. Rock Lee easily placed second, but due only to being younger and not leading the same intense lifestyle for as long as Gai had. Wonder what Sukune and the others will say. Naruto thought. Naruto. The blonde turned to the sound of his name being called out, only to see a familiar witch heading towards him. Yukari-chan, hey. Check it out. He held out his karate uniform. Completely ignoring the uniform, Yukari looked directly at his face. Naruto, have you seen Mocha anywhere? Mocha. Naruto repeated, looking a bit perplexed. No, not since I last saw her with you guys. Is something wrong? Well, Yukari scratched her cheek a bit. I think Sukune hurt her feelings, or something. She was with us at the swimming pool where the swimming club was having their station set up, and she didn't seem to like the idea of swimming, so she stayed out of the pool. Huh, go on. Naruto rubbed his chin a bit. So, she got mad when Kurumu asked her to come into the water, and she said that Sukune was too busy with the other girls to care about her or something like that, so she was leaving. Sukune called to her, saying he wanted to swim with her from the start, but then the swimming club captain began splashing water at her. She seemed scared when she got wet. Yukari looked around in a worried manner. Naruto, do you think she can't swim or something? Don't know. Naruto sighed. Well, I'll go to the pool and have a talk with Sukune. Maybe he can explain to Mocha. You go find Mocha, and we'll all meet back at the pool. Okay. Oh, and Naruto, be careful of their captain, Tamao Ichino's. I don't know. But there's just something off about her. Besides the fact that she's a monster. Naruto thought, got it, Yukari-chan. I'll see you at the pool. With that, Naruto headed towards the swimming pool. As he reached the pool area, he could hear the sound of water splashing and voices of the swimmers. Senpai, what are you doing? What's wrong with Ga? Naruto quirked an eyebrow, and stopped walking. He quickly hid behind a row of hedges, and looked into the pool area. What the hell? Naruto murmured to himself. There in the pool were more than a dozen fish, or, what were they? If Naruto didn't know any better, they resembled those pictures of mermaids that he saw in the few kids' books he read when he was younger. Far less beautiful though, and much scarier. These mermaids, or whatever, seemed to be chasing the other students, which were almost all men, and biting them. What disturbed him the most though was that the students changed before his eyes as they were bitten. They seemed to age rapidly, as though they had the youth sucked right out of them. Damn it, just when I was hoping for a regular day. Naruto sighed as he pulled a scroll out from his pocket labeled, Suit. Sukune watched in horror as he saw a boy drained of his energy by the two girls that had been swimming with him only moments ago. He had seen about enough. It would be best to get out of the water while he still had a chance, then go talk to Mocha and fix whatever problems there were between them. Sukune-kun, where are you going? Sukune nearly froze as he felt scaly arm wrap around him from behind. I decided that I don't want to join this club, Ichino's senpai. Thanks though, I do appreciate the time ya. Sukune flailed his arms while swimming back to try and distance himself between the swim club captain. She too, like the others, was a mermaid. Oh, that's too bad, Sukune-kun. Ichino spoke, slowly making her way over to him. You see. I never intended for you to leave. Ever since the day of the commencement ceremony, I've dreamed of getting a chance to meet you. Why? Sukune asked, paddling back while keeping a wary eye on the fish-like monster. Ichino's giggled lightly. Silly, it's because of your smell. She opened her mouth, revealing razor-sharp teeth like that of a predatory fish. It smells just like a human scent. I just can't help but want to devour you. Sukune. Don't worry, I'm coming. Sukune looked over his shoulder to see Kurumu, now in her true form, wings flapping and nails extended. She made towards Sukune, hand extended to reach out to him and pull him out of the pool. Stop her! Ichino's cried out. Kurumu didn't even have a chance to react as one of the mermaids jumped out of the water, slapping her with a giant fish tail. She cried out in pain before falling into the water. Kurumu! Sukune called out to the succubus. He swam towards the spot where she had fallen into the water, only to be stopped by Ichino's, who had swam out in front of him. She smiled lightly, her teeth fully visible to him. Don't worry, Sukune-kun, we have no interest in devouring a succubus like her. We'll simply let her drown. It'll be far less painless than getting eaten. The swim team captain swam forward, catching the teenager by the shoulders. Now, just relax. You won't die, I'll simply drain you of most of your life. Sukune could only watch as the jaws of Ichino's opened, ready to clamp down and drain him of his life force. He'd be an old man for the rest of his life, robbed of his youth by a mermaid. He couldn't help but think about his family, his friends, and Mocha. I guess this is what I get for ignoring Mocha-san like I did. Sukune thought as he gave in to his fate. Here I come to save the Daay. Ichino's turned around as the sound of a voice broke out. What now, huh? Ichino's caught the darkness of a silhouette falling down from the sky above. She swam away just as the figure crashed down into the water, sending a large wave in every direction. A few of the mermaids screamed as they were tossed about from the figure's impact. As the waves settled, Ichino's finally got a good look at their newest intruder. The mysterious interloper was dressed in an odd armor of sorts, a form-fitting suit almost. The person had a bandana of some kind covering their entire head, and a mask covering their face from the nose and everything underneath. Piercing blue eyes stood out amongst all the gray and black he had on. What bothered her the most was that this person was able to stand above the water's surface. How was that possible? The person was male from the looks of it, and the feminine part of her couldn't help but run her eyes over his form once before snarling, "Who the hell are you?" The figure simply barked out a laugh, "I am the upholder of justice." The reply to all that cry out for help. The Arashi ninja. Naruto didn't enjoy the odd looks he got from everyone around the pool area, Sukune included. Ichino's raised an eyebrow, "Huh." The person shook his head, and put his hands into a seal, forming a single clone that looked like an exact replica of himself. He spoke a few words, and the replica dived underneath the surface while the original remained standing above the water. He pointed a finger at her, "Ichino-san, by the power invested in me by righteous fury and justice, I will stop you and your club members from draining the life force from fellow students of Youkai Academy." "Who the hell do you think you are?" Ichino's replied, several mermaids surrounding her as she moved closer to him, "You're in our domain. We make the rules." Naruto simply laughed, "I wouldn't be so sure of that." He pointed to his feet, which emitted a soft blue glow as he stood above the water. "Your domain doesn't seem to have much of an effect on me." That seemed to strike a nerve with Ichino's. "That's it. Get that bastard, now." Naruto got into a ready stance as the mermaids sped towards him, much like a school of piranha. The blonde sidestepped the first mermaid as she dove at him. He quickly spun around once before delivering a power kick to the face of another one of the fish beasts. Meanwhile, the clone Naruto had summoned breached the surface, an unconscious Kurumu in its arms. The clone quickly got out of the water, pulling Kurumu up and laying her gently on the cement. He quickly checked her, and tilted her neck back a little. The clone pulled his mask down quickly and breathed into her. Almost immediately Kurumu began to cough, a small amount of water spurting out of her mouth. The clone quickly pulled up his mask as her eyes opened. What? Kurumu looked up to the clone's face. "Who are you?" Her masked savior seemed to smile as he spoke, "I'm a copy of the Arashi ninja. The real one's off fighting those mermaid girls or whatever they are." Kurumu's eyes widened. "Ah. That's right, Sukune-kun. Is he?" She sat up quickly, but found the masked ninja's arm hold her in place. "Whoa, easy." Naruto spoke calmly, "You nearly drowned a little while ago, just relax. I'll keep Sukune from getting eaten, alright? But," the clone placed a hand gently on her shoulder, "I promise." Kurumu found herself unable to argue. She sighed, instead turning to the apparent, original, ninja, who had just delivered an uppercut to an unfortunate mermaid, sending her out of the water and into some nearby shrubs. She looked back to the clone and then it clicked. "Wait, clones. The clone quickly dispelled, leaving a baffled Kurumu staring at a puff of smoke. But, he seemed to be so much like Naruto. Kurumu thought, "I'll just have to confront him about this when I get a chance." She coughed a little more water out of her mouth. "First I need to find out how I can help that Arashi ninja and Sukune-kun." But Mocha, Sukune-kun seemed really upset when you ran off. "I think he truly wanted you to join us in the pool." Mocha didn't face the young witch as she stood, facing towards the girls' dorms. He sure seemed to be having fun with that Tamao Ichino's. I know that she was enjoying being around him. Mocha. Yukari sighed, "Please, just come back and at least tell Sukune how you feel about the situation. I'm sure we can resolve all of this if we just talk." Mocha was quiet for almost a minute, Yukari fearing that she wasn't going to say anything further. Just when the witch was about to head back, the Rosette spoke, "I'm not a big fan of water." "Why you're not?" "No," Mocha replied, "I." Yukari's eyes widened a little. "Oh, it's true, then, isn't it?" "What's true?" Mocha asked, turning towards the younger girl. Yukari looked away. Well, I heard rumors that you're actually a vampire. Seeing as water has powerful purification properties, vampires tend to become weak when they make contact with it." Mocha gave a weak smile, and nodded once. "That's true. I am a vampire, and that's the reason why I hate water." Yukari frowned. "Mocha, please come back. I really think that Sukune-kun was worried when you left. The vampire girl gave a sigh, but smiled. You're right. Sukune-kun's my friend. That's what matters. Even if he joins the swimming club, I shouldn't ruin our friendship over something like that. Yukari grinned. That's right. We're friends. Besides, Naruto went and joined a different club too. I think he had a karate uniform. The two began heading back to the pool area. Karate. Naruto-kun. Mocha laughed. Wow, Naruto-kun knows karate. Super ninja punch of justice. Another mermaid was sent flying out of the pool area, crashing into a table courtesy of a nasty right hook from Naruto. Sukune had managed to escape the dreaded waters of the Youkai Academy pool, thanks in part to Kurumu, who had managed to grab a hold of him while flying. Though, had it not been for the distraction from the Arashi ninja, Kurumu doubted she would have been able to help Sukune. At the moment, Kurumu and Sukune, along with a few of the students who managed to escape the pool right away, were watching the mysterious ninja take on about a dozen of the remaining mermaids. He's only one guy. We can take him. One of the mermaids cried out. The others yelled in agreement before swimming towards Naruto. The young shinobi simply got into a stance while running through a series of seals. I guess now is as good a time to see if I'm good enough to use Sweden. A geyser of water shot out of the pool, spinning around Naruto and knocking a few of the mermaids back and halting the progress of the other attackers. Ichino's glared daggers at this interloper who had caused so many problems for her. Thanks to him, she lost out on her meal, and now he was beating the stuffing out of them in their own element. It was next to insulting. Naruto managed to find himself busy as the mermaids finally seemed to get a legitimate plan going. One mermaid dived under the surface while the others circled around him at high speeds. Naruto prepared to attack one of the mermaids when two hands grabbed a hold of him from underwater. Crap! Naruto cried out, feeling himself get pulled down into the watery depths of the pool. He took in a deep breath just before his head sunk under the surface. Naruto opened his eyes, feeling a light stinging sensation from the chlorine of the pool. He looked around him, expecting to see mermaids surrounding him from all sides. Instead, he was greeted by just the blurry blue of the pool water. No shadows or silhouettes of any of his attackers. A tingling sensation in the back of his mind told him to turn around. He was able to barely catch a glimpse of a set of jaws just as they clamped down on his arm. He let out a cry of pain before decking the mermaid in the face, causing her to immediately let go. Red rivulets began to flow into the pool water, and at least several more blurry figures emerged from the depths of the pool. Naruto drew a kunai, and the mermaids immediately stopped in place as they spotted the weapon. Naruto didn't want to use lethal force, but if push came to shove, he'd draw blood, even kill, if he had to. Two more mermaids swam towards him, jaws open and webbed hands reaching out to grab hold of him. Naruto molded chakra into his weapon, and quickly rolled to the side as the mermaids swam past. One of the two gave a cry of pain as she gripped her arm, which now had a nice clean gash going down the side. Naruto simply held his kunai in front of him as the others watched him carefully. I have to resurface soon. I never really had much experience underwater, and fighting like this is taking away my oxygen faster than I expected. Naruto closed his eyes. Looks like I'll have to do this in one move. Ichino's pointed a finger at Naruto while giving out a gurgled command. He can't breathe in the water. Just keep him pinned and he'll drown. The mermaids swam at Naruto all at once, but the blonde didn't move from his spot in the middle of the pool. He held out a single hand and began making circular motions, letting chakra flow into his hands as he put all his concentration into his next move. Mocha and Yukari arrived to the pool, surprised to see everyone standing outside of it in the swimwear. The students seemed to be focused on the pool though, which caused the two girls to also turn their attention to the water. Mocha. The Rosette looked up to see Sukune and Kurumu heading towards her. Sukune-kun, I'm sorry for. No, I should be the one apologizing. Sukune sighed. I didn't really pay attention to how you felt about the idea of swimming. None of us did. Kurumu added, we're sorry, Mocha. The Rosette smiled. It's fine. I shouldn't have been so immature like that and just run off like that on you guys. She looked to Sukune. I'm sorry. It's fine. Besides, I'm not interested in this club anymore. Yukari raised an eyebrow. Why not? Kurumu let out a laugh. The swimming club members tried to eat the students. What? Yukari and Mocha both yelled. They're apparently mermaids. Sukune shrugged his shoulders. I was done for, but all of the sudden some guy in a weird outfit saved me. He called himself the Arashi Ninja. Arashi Ninja. Yukari repeated, you don't say. You heard of him? Kurumu asked. Sort of. I heard that some person claiming to be a ninja saved a younger student from getting beat up by a bunch of bullies a night or two ago. He said he was fighting, for justice, or something. That explains the horrible names of his attacks. Kurumu added. It also explains his weird clothes. Spoke Mizore as she popped up from the bushes behind the group. Gah! The four cried out in surprise. Sorry. Mizore spoke as she pulled her sucker out of her mouth. I heard the Arashi Ninja has weird powers. I saw him make a clone of himself when he helped you out, Kurumu. You were here the whole time and didn't help. Kurumu growled. I didn't want to get my clothes wet. Mizore replied. Well, where is this ninja? Yukari asked. Sukune pointed to the pool. He was standing on the water's surface. Don't ask me how, but he was. The mermaids pulled him underneath the surface just a minute ago. The sound of waves splashing against cement drew the attention of the group once more. The pool was now a whirlpool that was spiraling towards the center. Whoa, do you feel that? Mocha spoke, a sudden heavy feeling washing over her. It's different from the Yuki I've felt from other monsters, but... Boom. The rosette's words were cut off as the water blasted out of the pool, raining down on those within the immediate area, Mocha included, much to her dismay, and the last of the mermaids could be seen lying scattered among the wreckage. Ah, there he is. Kurumu pointed towards the center of the pool where the Arashi Ninja was standing. He had one open palm raised into the air, a ball of light with wisps of air going around it. It was emitting a bright light from the center, and gave off a high-pitched humming sound. A light wind seemed to be emanating from the strange ball of energy. The ninja looked around before tossing the ball of energy into the air so that it dissipated, then hopped out of the now empty pool. He looked around before looking to Sukune. Are you alright? Huh. Sukune blinked. Oh. Why yeah. Thanks for helping me earlier, Arashi Ninja, or ninja works too. Naruto replied, I've been hearing quite a bit about you lately. Trouble seems to follow you around, Sukune Aono. Sukune's throat tightened. Did this guy know about his secret? Did he know he was a human as well? Really? Sukune asked. I suppose I got mixed up with the wrong crowd early in the semester. Hey. I don't mean to cause trouble around here. Naruto waved a hand dismissively. Don't worry about it. I keep an eye on the place. If I see anyone causing problems around here, they'll have to deal with me. He turned to the other students who were watching from a distance. Have no fear, students of Youkai Academy. I, the Arashi Ninja, shall keep a silent watch over this place. Should you ever find yourself in peril, I will do everything in my power to protect you. Before anyone could give a reply, Naruto pulled out a small ball from a pocket in his suit, tossing it to the ground. It emitted a thick gray smoke, giving him enough cover to disappear. By the time the smoke dissipated, he was gone from sight. Yukari rubbed her chin as the others looked to see if there were any traces of the masked vigilante, ninja, huh? She smiled a bit. Looks like I'll need to do some investigating on the matter. Naruto let out a deep sigh as he sealed the last of his, Arashi Ninja, attire into his scroll after finding a quiet clearing in the woods nearby. He grunted in pain as he examined the bite marks on his two arms. Despite how he had managed to avoid major wounds during the fight, they still managed to catch him a few times in the fray. I definitely need to get a training schedule going again. Naruto thought aloud as he began to treat his wounds. He began to wrap the bite mark, and laughed, maybe also stop getting inspiration for my monologues from Guy-sensei, haha. A few days had passed since the incident with the pool and the mermaids. Nekonome had managed to talk Sukune, Mocha, Kurumu, and Yukari into joining the newspaper club, which didn't seem all that bad in Sukune's opinion. He wasn't exactly a journalist, but he didn't see the problem with getting a simple article done for a paper once a week. Sukune-kun, we should do an article together. Nay, Kurumu, why would he want to write an article with a top-heavy cow like ow? My hair, let go of my hair. Sukune groaned as Yukari and Kurumu got into yet another scuffle. Mocha was busy looking over a possible entry for the paper entitled, The Masked Vigilante of Youkai. Who is the Arashi ninja? Mizore was currently out getting some photographs of the campus for a start of a new school year themed article. Hey, Sukune, mind helping me with these boxes? Sukune looked up from his own work to see Jin carrying a few boxes with paper supplies. Oh, sure thing, Jin. Jine Morioka, the current president of the newspaper club, was a rather laid-back individual. The first day of the club had proven that he was a bit of a pervert, though, after he caught the upperclassmen trying to get a peek underneath the skirts of the girls when they were hanging up posters on the wall for their club. He had called Jin out on that, only for Jin to somehow find a way to make it seem like it had been Sukune who was being the pervert. In the end, he had received a slap to the face from both Mocha and Kurumu, a scolding from Yukari, and a rather icy look from Mizore. As Sukune hefted one of the boxes up, Jin walked over to him, speaking just above a whisper. Hey, Sukune, is it true that you and Mocha are an item right now? What? Sukune recovered quickly. Well, I'm just curious as to whether or not I'll have to work hard on getting her to fall for me or not, that's all. Jin laughed. I'm afraid I've fallen for Mocha Akashiya. Regardless of what it takes, I'm going to make her my woman. Sukune felt his temper flare a bit. Well, I doubt she'll fall for a pervert like you. Jin just grinned. Haha, as far as I can tell, she sees you as more of a pervert. Which, by the way, is your fault entirely. Sukune added. Hey, yeah, sorry about that. Didn't mean for you to get slapped in the face. The two walked in relative silence after that, heading down the rather quiet halls of the academy during the after-school hours. They eventually exited the academy building, heading down to the gymnasium area. Jin, why are we heading down to the gymnasium? Jin looked to the gym. Oh, well, I have a friend in the karate club, and he said he could hold on to some of our extra supplies in their locker room area, since we have zero space for use right now. Oh. They entered the gymnasium, and headed down one of the halls. The sounds of people shouting as they played various sports could be heard echoing down the corridor, as well as the sounds of feet moving on wooden floors, basketballs being dribbled, the sound of weights clanking against metal. Sukune followed Jin into a room that had a padded flooring and walls. The people there were dressed in white uniform with belts tied to their waists, and none of them had shoes on. Among the students was a familiar blonde. Oh, Naruto. Hey, over here. The blonde was resting against a wall, a towel wrapped around his neck. He opened one eye and grinned when he saw Sukune. Sukune. Hey, what are you doing here? Oh, well, Jin-senpai said that we can store some of the extra supplies for the newspaper club here. Jin. Naruto repeated, looking over to the upperclassman who was conversing with Haji, his club's captain. When he laid eyes upon the guy, he couldn't help but chuckle. Oh, I see. You know him? Sukune asked, only to receive a negative shaking of the head from Naruto. I've only heard of him. Naruto shrugged. Haji-senpai says he's good friends with Jin. Personally. Naruto looked around a bit before lowering his voice. I heard he's a pervert, and that he's notorious with the upperclassmen girls. Sukune's frowned. Not surprising. I caught him peeking under the skirts of Kurumu, Mizore, and Mocha the other day. Naruto's expression soured a little. Really? What happened? He blamed me for it. Let me guess. Mocha and the others beat the snot out of you for it. Well, Mocha and Kurumu slapped me across the face. Yukari just got all weird and Mizore gave me a scary look. Naruto sighed. Well, if he does anything like that again, try to make sure you've got proof to show for it. Sukune just shrugged. Well, I'll just have to be careful around him. He seems to have an interest in Mocha as well. You don't say. Naruto looked to see Jin laughing with Haji over something funny. The blonde shinobi gave Sukune a pat on the shoulder and smiled. Haha, don't worry. Jin's bound to slip up sooner than later, right? Besides, Mocha's a smart girl. She wouldn't just fall for a guy based on looks. Oi, Sukune, drop the stuff off here. We've got to get some photos taken for the newspaper then. Jin called, cutting the two boys' conversation short. Right, be there in a second. Sukune looked to Naruto. Well, I guess I'll talk to you later, Naruto. Mocha mentioned something about studying for the math exam coming up later this week with Yukari. Naruto grumbled. Oh, right, math. He scratched his head. I might not be able to make it to the study group. Why not? I got stuff to take care of. Sukune gave Naruto perplexed look. What stuff? Naruto cracked his neck a bit. Just stuff that needs my attention. I have all week to study, right? Naruto, you and I are both about as ill-prepared for math as possible. We need to study. Sukune argued, is it that important that you have to miss studying? Sukune, don't worry about it, okay. I'll see you later. Sukune was still frowning as he bid Naruto farewell, and after setting the boxes of newspaper supplies in the karate club's spare storage locker, they headed out to get some photography done. The rest of the day had gone by rather uneventfully for Naruto. He had managed to defeat 2 more members while sparring, and even got a free meal from Haji for his efforts. Now it was close to 9, the sun having long dropped below the horizon. A cool wind whipped through the blonde's hair as he took in a deep breath. He pulled out his bandana and covered his head, then tied his hitai around his head. Tonight he had some time to spare. He wasn't lying to Sukune when he had stated that has stuff to take care of. That stuff wasn't academically related though. Naruto needed to sharpen his skills. He may be a student, but he was a shinobi, first and foremost. Naruto walked into the opening where his training field was set up. He looked around once before walking towards a small shrub. A single wire was tied around one of the branches, barely visible to the naked eye. Naruto untied the string, and let it go. Several seconds passed before several targets dropped down from the surrounding trees, and about a dozen training dummies popped out of the areas where taller grass was growing. Well, no time to waste. Naruto said to himself, weaving his hands into his favorite hand seal, summoning close to 50 clones. They all looked to him before getting into a fighting stance. Naruto drew a kunai and just grinned underneath his mask. It was close to 11 at night when Naruto decided to take a break. He untied his bandana and headband, letting the cool air of the evening hit his sweaty scalp. He plopped onto the ground, letting his muscles take a well-deserved rest. This was the feeling he had been missing. Exhaustion. The feeling of having driven himself to the point where his heart was drumming in his chest, and his muscles strained move. He missed this feeling, but probably what he missed most of all was having someone to spar with. He was, as far as he was aware, the only human with powers like his in both this world and Sukune's. Sukune seemed to be, just like Tsunade had said, unable to draw upon the chakra in his system and not as powerful because of it. Maybe I could teach him. Naruto chuckled at the thought. He was hardly qualified to teach the ways of the shinobi to a person, let alone someone who missed the most critical years to develop their chakra coils. He could probably teach Sukune basic taijutsu, but that was it. Genjutsu was out of the question, and he wasn't certain on what he could teach Sukune in the field of ninjutsu. Fuinjutsu was still gray area for Naruto. He was an apprentice-level seal master at best, but if he just applied some time to studying the notes from Jiraiya, he could improve greatly. Staring up at the night sky, Naruto couldn't help but admire the beauty of the moon. Full moon. Naruto began to pick up his gear and clean up his training ground. Guess that means I'll have more light for patrol tonight. Naruto was done cleaning up in no time at all, and decided to get a quick bite to eat. Digging into one of his pockets, he pulled out one of the cereal bars he had bought at the academy earlier that day. They weren't as filling as the ration bars back in Konoha, but they sure tasted better. About 3 minutes after taking the time to eat and drink from a canteen he had brought, Naruto jumped off into the canopy of the forest. Jin-senpai, are these real? Jin gave a frown, nodding as he chuckled, yeah, pretty pathetic, huh? Sukune seems like an okay guy, but to peep on the girls' locker room. Mocha looked at a picture of Sukune standing on a pile of crates while looking into what appeared to be the girls' gym locker room. She honestly didn't know what to think. She had seen Sukune getting chased by girls earlier, and they did seem upset, but this can't be true. Sukune isn't like that. Mocha looked to Jin. I can't believe this. I need to talk to Sukune about this first before I make up my mind. Jin shook his head. Mocha-chan. I understand that you must be distraught, but trust me, he's a pervert. The second-year student wrapped an arm around her. I'm here to console you, Mocha-chan. Sukune knew something was up when Jin led him to the worst place to get a good view of the campus. He should have never climbed up and looked into that window, but how was he supposed to know that there would be more than 24 girls getting dressed in there? Now he was locked in a storage room with his arms tied around his back. No way out. He would have to wait until tomorrow morning for the janitor to arrive when he came to get the cleaning. I think he's in here. Sukune's thoughts were interrupted by the sound of voices outside a window high above his reach. It sounded like, "Sukune, you there? Yukari. Ah, he's in there. Kurumu, help me up." A pointed hat poked up from behind the window, followed by the face of none other than Yukari Sendo. "Sukune, don't worry, we'll get you out of here." "How did you find me?" Sukune asked as the witch and succubus entered the room. Kurumu winked. "Well, I was curious as to where you and Jin were heading off to, so. You were following Sukune so you could get him alone with you." Yukari corrected. "As I was saying, I was curious as to where you and Jin-senpai were going, so I followed. Well, I saw what happened, and luckily I had a camera with me." She held up some photographs of Jin pointing to the window and pretty much all the proof they needed to prove Sukune innocent. "Great. Now, we just need to find Mocha and let her know as well." Kurumu smiled. "We sent Mizore off to find Mocha a little while ago. She said she saw her on the roof of one of the academy buildings a little while ago." Kurumu extended her claw-like nails and quickly cut through the rope holding Sukune's arms together. "I think Mocha may be in a bit of trouble as well. Jin-senpai said he was going to try and make Mocha his girl." Sukune spoke. "We better find Mocha quickly." "Jin-senpai, stop it." "What? I'm just holding you gently. What's the big deal?" Mocha slapped his hand away. "You just tried to feel me up." "Ah, well, haha, you see, there's a full moon tonight." Jin waved a hand up to the bright orb in the night sky. "The moon has a strong effect on me, especially when it's full like tonight. I tend to lose myself to my more carnal desires." He gave a disarming smile. "It's beautiful, isn't it? The moon is a strange and powerful force in the world of us monsters. That doesn't mean you can go and do such things." Mocha backed away from him. "Just leave me be. I want to talk to Sukune before I go and jump to conclusions. I believe in him, and I know he wouldn't do this without reason." "Still caught up with that dweeb?" Jin frowned. "Look, Mocha, if you don't want to be my girl, I'll just have to make you submit then, won't I?" Mocha let out a gasp as Jin's nails became claws. His teeth sharpened, and hair began to grow on every inch of his body. His overall body frame grew, not as much as when Seizu transformed, but it was a difference. What are you?" Mocha asked, taking a few more steps back. Jin grinned a toothy grin. "A werewolf. A child of the night, a master of speed and agility." Jin began to approach Mocha. "Now, just stop struggling, will you? I promise I'll be a greater man than Sukune could ever hope to be with you." "No, leave me alone." Jin stopped short as the sound of an object whizzing through the air caught his senses. He ducked as a sharp projectile flew over his head. He looked to the edge of the roof to see a figure standing there. "I would stop bothering Mocha-chan if I were you. It's really hard to pretend to miss a target." "Ah, Mizore-chan." Mocha spoke. "What are you doing here?" Mizore looked to Mocha for a moment. "I was following you. Kurumu and Yukari said that I should keep an eye on things while they went and looked for Sukune." She pointed a knife of sorts at Jin. "This guy framed Sukune. We have evidence." Jin growled. "Damn, why do I always have to deal with interruptions like this?" Mizore walked over to Mocha's side, and the temperature around the trio dropped significantly, frost developing on the roof where they stood. "Jin-senpai, leave Mocha alone, and also clear Sukune's name of the accusations against him." "Ha, like hell I'll do that. That guy had it coming with how he never sticks up for himself." Jin chuckled. "Looks like I'll have to deal with two unruly women, won't I?" Mizore gave a chilling smile, brandishing the clear, crystalline-like knife. If Mocha were to hold the knife, she would have realized it was actually made of carved ice. The purple-haired girl took a step forward while turning to Mocha. "Mocha-chan, stay back. I'd rather not get you caught up in this by mistake. My powers tend to have a wide range when I get caught up in the heat of a battle." "Mizore-chan." "Mocha." "Mizore." The two girls, along with the werewolf, turned to another voice. There, coming up from the stairwell entrance to the roof were Kurumu, Yukari, and Sukune. Jin's eyes widened in surprise before he got into a stance. "Ha. Even if it were 10-1, I'd still win this fight." "Don't be so sure of that." Mizore spoke. her voice no longer calm and soft, "I won't let you have the chance to move another step." She chucked her ice knives at the werewolf and quickly slammed her hand to the ground. Splinters of frost crept out of her hands, which now were more like claws made of ice. Jin quickly dodged the knives, then jumped over the sheet of ice that formed over the roof. "He's fast," Mizor spoke, raising both hands and blasting a wave of sub-zero air at the wolf-like beast. Jin simply faded from view, Mizor hitting nothing but air. "Hey, over here," Jin called out. The entire group turned to the railing on the opposite end of the roof where Jin stood, grinning cockily. "Perhaps you're not aware of a werewolf's speed. You see, when the moon's full and bright, that's when my powers are at the peak." He disappeared from view, reappearing behind Mizor. "No matter how much you try to freeze me in place, it won't do you any good if you can't keep up with my speed." Jin prepared to deliver a quick slash with his claws to Mizor, but felt something grip his wrist. "What the?" Looking over his shoulder, his expression became one of shock. "Why you?" Holding onto Jin's wrists, not moving in the slightest as Jin struggled to yank his arm free, was the Arashi ninja. Naruto made sure to change the tone of his voice as he spoke. "Jin, I warned you to stay out of trouble. Why, you're that ninja guy from a few days back." Jin growled, "How did you get behind me like that?" The others were just as curious as to how he suddenly appeared out of seemingly nowhere. The ninja laughed a little before looking up. "I thought I told you, I'm a ninja. It's what I do." Naruto had an inkling of a feeling that he should do a patrol around the academy buildings first tonight. It just turned out he had made the right choice. He watched as Mizor explained the situation involving Jin framing Sukune, and then watched the fight start. He had to admit, he was a bit surprised to see Mizor manipulating ice. It reminded him of his fight with Haku so many years ago, the way she could control and create ice from thin air. Naruto felt Jin tug to free his arm again from the grip of the young shinobi. The blonde didn't budge. "However, I'm not letting you go, Jin. Not until you decide to stop this and turn yourself in." "No way." Jin decided to stop holding back, and quickly delivered a kick to Naruto's stomach. Naruto managed to barely soften the blow by jumping back a bit. Landing on his knees, Naruto grunted in annoyance as his abdominals throbbed in pain. That guy could kick. Naruto scanned the area, and much to his dismay, Jin was gone from his sight. Cursing himself for losing sight of the enemy, Naruto got up and drew a kunai before turning to the others. "All of you, get out of here. I'll take care of him and turn him in, alright? I don't want you all getting caught up in this if I can help it." The only response Naruto got though was a shout from Yukari, "Ninja-san, behind you." Naruto spun around and lifted an arm, the braces on his suit blocking the claws of Jin's hands. Naruto grit his teeth as he pushed the werewolf back. "Damn, you almost got me there." Jin laughed, "I have to admit, you're pretty good to block me like that. Keeping up with a werewolf, even a little, is something to be proud of. TCH, don't patronize me." Naruto pocketed the kunai and grabbed Jin's arm with both hands before pulling him in and kneeing him in the gut. Naruto didn't give him a chance to recover, and quickly threw the werewolf over his shoulder. Jin managed to land on his feet, growling a bit from the pain. "You hit pretty hard, hey." Jin spit some blood before continuing, "That's definitely going to bruise. I warned you, you don't want to see what I'm capable of in a fight. I'm going easy on you, namely because my full power would be too much for such a small battleground." "Is that so?" Jin grinned, "Guess I'll have to take advantage of that." Naruto saw Jin blur away. A second later he raised a knee to block a foot to the gut, only to be punched by a clawed fist from the werewolf. The blonde flew into the air before hitting the ground, but quickly got to his feet, shaking his head. "That was a freebie, bastard. Next one won't be so easy to get." Jin and Naruto disappeared, the two moving at high speeds, the sound of metal and sharpened claws clashing with each other. The other five could do no more than simply watch helplessly, unable to tell where the two were. I can't see them moving around." Mizor's icicle claws twitched a bit. "That guy is pretty fast. I guess he really is a ninja then, isn't he?" The two suddenly reappeared in midair, feet blocking each other from hitting their target's jaws. Naruto couldn't recall the last opponent he faced who was this fast, other than Lee, but he never got to spar with him that much. Sure, he dealt with numerous shinobi, but humans are only capable of moving so fast for so long. It was only because of his monstrous chakra reserves and amazing stamina that he was able to keep up with Jin. Naruto quickly drew several shuriken and threw them at the werewolf, and just as he expected, Jin dodged. Naruto used the attack as a distraction, running ahead to meet Jin and deliver a snap kick to the jaw. Take this. Arashi ninja kick. Jin, while caught off guard by his opponent's speed, managed to dodge the kick by moving to the side. He caught Naruto's ankle, and quickly slammed the boy on his back. Gah! Naruto felt the air leave his lungs as he struggled to get to his feet. A foot landed hard on his chest, pinning him to ground. Naruto looked up to see Jin's padded feet holding him in place. Damn it. Hey, serves you right for trying to take on a werewolf during a full moon. Jin pressed down harder on Naruto's chest, causing Naruto to grunt in pain. I'm not finished. Naruto reached for the kunai in his pouch, and moved to stab Jin in the leg. Jin, however, saw the ninja's arm move, and instead pinned his forearm to the ground, effectively causing Naruto to drop his weapon and cry out in pain as he felt his bones reaching the brink of fracturing. Look, kid, I don't want to hurt you any more than I have to. Give up and never bother me again, and I'll let you go. Naruto simply raised his one free hand, and pointed behind him. Jin gave him a puzzled look, but looked behind him. At the same time, a sudden chill ran down his spine as he lay eyes upon a bright pink aura that seemed to shoot off into the sky. Wah, what is that? Jin asked, a sudden weight crashing on his chest causing his breathing to hitch for a moment. His instincts were telling him to run, but he squashed down the idea immediately. As the light disappeared, a single figure stood before him. Yukari, Sukune, Mizore, and Kurumu had all stepped back to the opposite end of the roof. Jin wasn't sure why, but Sukune was giving him a sympathetic look, as though he had done some great evil against Jin. Jine, I recommend you remove your foot from the shinobi. Jin turned to see what looked to be Mocha, though with a few drastic changes. She appeared to have silver hair now, red irises, and a slight alteration to her body's frame, making her appearance more mature. Why, you really are a vampire? Jin stated, I thought it was just a rumor. You're even more beautiful than before. Haha. Mocha yawned a bit before she looked to Jin with an almost mocking smile. So, the high and mighty werewolf can be scared after all. She got into a stance that Naruto couldn't help but mentally praise. Well, I do recall you stating that you wished to make me your woman, not too long ago. Why don't you try? Jin just laughed, and lifted his foot from Naruto's chest. The werewolf faded from view, reappearing behind Mocha. The vampire quickly spun around to knee him in the gut, only to hit air. Face it, as long as the full moon shines bright, this fight is mine. Jin laughed. He slipped underneath a rising kick by the silver-haired beauty, and quickly ran behind her. Mocha turned around once more, missing his face by several seconds, her fist going through an afterimage. To Jin, she seemed to be moving in slow motion. He could have ended this battle already, he just wanted to drag it out a bit longer. He wanted to prove that just because she was a vampire didn't mean she was superior. He continued to sprint circles around the vampire, who was struggling to keep up with his movements. He grinned to himself, I think it's time to end this now. She's as good as mine. The werewolf changed his course, fist cocked back to knock out the vampire from the back of the skull. He threw his fist forward, the grin never leaving his face. Thwack! Crunch! For a moment, Jin thought he had hit her. Then he looked again, only to see a few of his knuckles bending in odd directions. His brain caught up with the rest of his body, and he looked to see the hand of none other than the Arashi ninja, who had stopped Jin's fist with an open palm, effectively breaking several digits in the werewolf's hand. Gah! Jin cried out, retracting his hand and holding it tenderly, how did you manage to catch me like that? Damn it! Naruto simply laughed, pointing up to the sky. Jin looked up, and his facial features changed from anger to shock. The clouds were out, and had blocked out most of the moonlight. Without the moonlight, he wasn't nearly as fast as before. Don't think that it's over. I'll show you what I'm. A blur of silver and green appeared in front of him, and he saw stars as the foot of Mocha Akashiya met the side of his head. He flew several feet through the air before flying off the railing of the roof and onto the ground below. The four other spectators ran to see the figure of Jin, motionless and groaning in pain. I doubt he'll be getting up from that. Yukari spoke, that's at least 3 stories that he fell down, not to mention he got kicked by Mocha. Naruto decided to take his leave while the others were focused on the downed werewolf. No need to have them getting curious about him, especially Kurumu. She seemed to recognize him, and he almost blew his cover. Hold it. Naruto was just about to jump off when he heard Mocha speak. He cursed himself before turning around. Yeah. He barely had time to react as Mocha appeared before him, her hands around his arm. He bit down the pain as she tightened her grip. I have a tendency to not trust those who hide behind masks. Her crimson pupils locked with his sapphire. Naruto gritted his teeth as he forced back the desire to pull his arm away. Mocha was easily much stronger than he was. Well, at least stronger without having to draw upon any further power, and doing that might only provoke her. He managed to laugh a little as she kept a steady gaze on him. I go and help you and this is the thanks I get. For all I know, you have some ulterior motive to helping us. Mocha explained, applying more force and caused Naruto to wince a little. You're definitely a capable fighter, that much I can tell. However, judging by the fact that you have superhuman abilities while in a human form, I'm guessing you're either a boundary being or very good at holding a disguise while drawing upon your true powers. Hey, nothing escapes you, does it? Naruto's comment was rewarded with a slight twisting. Ow, 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 look, just trust me on this one. I'm not a bad guy. Vigilantes tend to believe that they're doing good. That doesn't mean that they're good deeds, or good for the public. Mocha kept her steady gaze on the ninja's blue orbs. I saw you at the pool the other day. While you did save many from being fed on by the mermaids, you also arrived at a rather convenient time, at least that's what Sukune said. Saved him in the nick of time, as they would say. What are you getting at? Naruto asked. Are you stalking us? Mocha questioned. If you lie to me, and I find out. She let the threat hang in the air, her suppressing aura doing the talking for her. Okay, you want the truth. Naruto looked away for a moment before sighing. The truth is that I don't like how things are being handled around here. Too many students deal with problems, some of which they shouldn't have to worry about to begin with, like getting beat up by upperclassmen, getting their lunch money stolen, or having people steal their belongings. Mocha's eyes lowered to his torso, where Jin had stepped on his ribs, then settled onto his arm. Are you injured? Naruto waved his free hand. I heal up faster than most. I'll be fine. I've had much worse beatings than that. Mocha seemed to be done with her impromptu interrogation, letting go of Naruto's arm. The shinobi quickly backed up while giving a nod. Take care now. Until we meet again, Naruto. The ninja had already started to turn around, before he stopped suddenly and looked back at Mocha with wide eyes, panic etched into his masked features. When did you figure it out? Offering him a small smile, she idly brushed a loose strand of hair away from her face while walking back towards him. Your physique is quite similar to that of Naruto, and you both have the exact same eye color as well. Not only that, but Naruto is the only one of our group of friends that isn't here. I simply connected the dots, and your reaction confirmed my suspicions to be true. Naruto looked over Mocha's shoulder at the rest of the group. They were still checking out the area where Jin had gone over the railing and chatting amongst themselves. Turning his attention back to the white-haired vampire, he begged, please Mocha-chan, keep this between us. I want to help people, but I'm also doing this to keep up with my training. I really don't need others constantly nagging me about what I do. Besides, this could cause problems if I make enemies and others know who I really am. He seemed to be sincere with his request. Please. Mocha's red eyes squinted as she gazed at him, a thoughtful expression on her face. I'll agree, but only on one condition. Feeling wary, Naruto simply nodded slowly at her, urging her to continue. Mocha continued, you're powerful, I can tell that much just from what happened here tonight. I'm curious as to just how strong you are. I want to spar you sometime this year before school ends. I desire to keep my own skills sharp, and you're the closest thing I have to a friend that has worthy strength. Part of Naruto was happy at her offer. If he could practice with her, she would make an incredible sparring partner. On the other hand, seeing the damage she did to Jin with just a single punch, it would be just like sparring with a Sakura that didn't pull any punches. It would hurt. Fine, Naruto scratched the back of his head while exhaling deeply. I promise we'll spar. Just let me know when you want to. Mocha smirked at Naruto and gave him a little, shoo, gesture. The blonde immediately disappeared in a puff of smoke. Kurumu noticed the smoke from the corner of her eye, belatedly realizing that the ninja had disappeared. Hey, wait. Don't bother Kurumu, he's already a good 2 minutes running distance from us. Mocha spoke as she rejoined with the group. Sukune gave the vampire a quizzical look, you can tell. Barely. His aura is suppressed now, but that technique he used to disappear gave off the faintest trace of energy. I'm guessing it's a sort of teleportation ability. Yukari nodded. I remember reading in a book somewhere about shinobi once, it said that they're a step under boundary beings. She scratched her head in thought. I think it said that they differ from witches in regards to how they draw upon their power. Witches harness the energy of the environment around them, but ninja draw energy from within them. Sukune shook his head. So, you mean to say that this, Warashi ninja, is more or less a superhuman of some sorts? Yukari smiled while laughing a little. I guess that's an easy way of putting it. There's more to it though. I'll have to see if I can find anything else on shinobi in my spare time. Mocha eventually retrieved her rosary from Sukune and reattached it to her chain. The group then decided it was best to call it a night, considering it was nearly on to 1 in the morning. Mizore. The purple-haired girl looked to her side to see Mocha walking beside her. Thanks, for helping me earlier. Mocha looked away for a moment. I won't tell anyone about your powers. Mizore smiled. That doesn't really matter to me, but thank you. Hey, Kurumu began as they began walking down the stairs to the ground floor. What do we do about Jin? Oh, he's still unconscious, isn't he? Sukune asked. All in favor of leaving him and spilling the beans on what happened in the first newspaper, say I. Yukari spoke, grinning a little. I. Came the chorus of 4 girls and 1 boy. Then it's decided, Yukari laughed. Almost as an afterthought, she continued, hey, Naruto's in the karate club. Maybe we should get him to beat up Jin as retribution for what he did to Sukune-kun. Naruto crawled to his bed, groaning in pain as he slowly lied down. Taking a look at his body, he saw a few bruises on his chest, and 1 on his wrist. He'd be fine by morning, but it didn't do anything to help with the pain throbbing through his body. Still, it sure beat a punch through the wall from Sakura or Tsunade any day. He took a quick look at his alarm clock, and sighed. 5 minutes past 2 in the morning, and he was just starting to get some sleep. He'd have to be up in less than 6 hours, and while he was used to having little sleep, he was also used to being on missions and being active. Sitting in classes for a good 6 hours a day wasn't exactly what he called being active. Therefore, it wasn't necessarily a surprise to him when he would sometimes find himself dozing off in the middle of a lecture about trigonometry. Damn, I don't have homework due tomorrow, do I? Naruto asked himself aloud. He quickly flicked on his light, and walked over to his desk. Looking at his math book, he opened the page he had bookmarked, and sighed. Son of a. Naruto plopped into his chair. He had another 16 problems to go, and he recalled hearing that this homework would be graded. He rubbed his eyes, grabbed a pencil, and set to work. Bam, bam, bam. Naruto. Hey, Naruto, wake up. Bam, 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 bam 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 bam. Naruto slowly opened his eyes, and yawned. The first thing he noted was that he was in his chair. Second of all, he looked at his clock. 20 to 8, huh? Naruto's slowly widened. Aw crap. Naruto. Are you in there? You're going to be late for class. Naruto ran to his door, and opened it to reveal Sukune standing before him. Ah, Sukune. Thanks for waking me up, haha. Looks like I forgot to set my clock. No problem, you usually have your door open in the morning before you leave for school, so I figured you were still sleeping. Sukune looked to see his homework still on his desk. Rough night. Yeah. Look, give me 3 minutes and I'll be with you. Naruto shut the door and quickly threw on his uniform and grabbed his books and backpack. No more than 2 minutes passed before he was leaving his room, locking the door behind him. I kind of forgot to finish the math homework for today, so I stayed up a bit later. Sukune nodded. Yeah, I hear you. Weird stuff happened last night with our club. Luckily that ninja guy showed up. Naruto made sure to feign surprise. Ninja? You mean that Warashi ninja that everyone's been talking about? Yeah, Turns out that Jin-senpai is a pervert, and he was trying to hit on Mocha. One thing lead to another, we all arrived in time to see Jin-senpai fighting with Mizore and that ninja. Turns out he's a werewolf. A werewolf. Naruto chuckled, huh. It was a full moon out last night too. Was anyone hurt? Sukune shook his head, not too badly. Mocha reported Jin to the faculty this morning, and we're printing out an extra of our newspaper on the incident. It's clearing up my name too, hey. That's a relief. The two eventually reached their homeroom just as the bell rang. After the greetings from the teacher to the students, Nekonome began her lecture on monsters in human literature. About 5 minutes into the lecture, however, the classroom door opened, and everyone turned to see an upperclassman girl holding a piece of paper. She looked in the classroom, then to Nekonome. Is there a Naruto Uzumaki in here? Yes, Uzumaki-kun is here. Nekonome replied while pointing to Naruto. The girl turned to Naruto and nodded to herself. Uzumaki-san, I was asked to call you to the chairman's office. Immediately the room was filled with whispers and hushed gasps. Naruto simply raised an eyebrow while getting out of his seat, okay. Right now. It sounded important. The girl replied. Naruto picked up his book bag and headed towards the door. He noted Mizore and Mocha giving him worried looks while Sukune looked almost terrified. Naruto himself didn't know what to think. Did they find out he was the Arashi ninja? He was pretty sure that the chairman knew he was a human, so what did he wish to speak to him about? Uzumaki-kun, be sure to read pages 15 through 28 from the book. Nekonome called out to the blonde as he left. Naruto gave a nod before closing the door. As he followed the upperclassman girl through the halls of the school, he continued to mull over the possible reasons for this request of his presence. He was drawing up various conclusions, none of them sounding any good. He vaguely recalled seeing the chairman during the ceremony on his first day in Youkai, but that was it. He pretty much had no idea who this man was. The girl eventually reached a set of large wooden doors, and stopped. Well, the chairman's waiting for you. She gave a bow before heading down the hall, leaving the blonde alone in front of the ominous set of double doors. He knocked once, and much to his surprise, the doors opened. He took a step back, his shinobi instincts kicking in for a moment. He unconsciously reached to his side, but then realized his kunai pouch was back in his room. Enter. Naruto jumped at the sound of the eerie, yet calm, voice that emanated from the room. He was hesitant to abide by the voice's command, unsure if he could fully trust it with so much unknown to him. Naruto-kun, I assure you that there are no dangers in here. Enter, please. Naruto noted the voice sounded slightly more comforting, though it still sent a shiver down his spine. Exhaling deeply, he walked into the room, and took a look around. The first thing he saw was the large wooden desk on the opposite end of the room, a giant window behind it that let the early morning light in through a crack in the curtains that were pulled halfway shut. Second was that there were shelves upon shelves of books on either side of the office, and several oddities like a candle placed on top of a human skull, a strange book in a display case with runic symbols, and various things he wasn't able to identify. Welcome, Naruto-kun. I trust you were able to find my office all right. Naruto faced towards the desk where the chairman was seated. He was a strange person, Naruto decided. He wore a cloak of sorts, a hood shadowing the upper portion of his face above his nose. His eyes, however, seemed to be glowing, which Naruto didn't think was normal. Then again, considering where he was, he ruled out most logical things that humans would take for granted. Second of all was the necklace he had, bearing a cross of some sort. Naruto, being a human with sensitivity to chakra and other similar energies, was able to tell one thing was certain about this man. He was powerful. Well, regardless, please have a seat. The chairman pointed to a chair in front of his desk. Naruto did as he was asked, and faced towards the cloaked man. So, Chairman, sir, what is it you wished to speak to me about? The chairman's eerie smile never left his face as he spoke. It would appear that some incident has occurred recently, one that you can relate to directly. Naruto's face managed to hide his nervousness. To me. Correct. The chairman replied before continuing, it relates to Konohagakure, and the group known as Akatsuki, if I'm right. Naruto's eyes widened. Akatsuki. What happened? Did they attack my village? Is anyone hurt? Are they looking for? Naruto bit his tongue as the chairman raised a hand to silence him. I think it would be best if someone else explained all that to you. The chairman looked to a door on the right side of the room. You may enter now. The door opened slowly, Naruto guessing that there was a smaller study in that room for the chairman to go to. That was important to him though. He was more concerned with who could possibly be behind that door that wished to speak to him. As the door opened fully, Naruto's jaw went slack. He bolted up, sweat pouring down his face. Kaka. There, in the doorway, being supported by two crutches, both legs in bandages while a good portion of the head being wrapped up as well, stood Kakashi Hatake. The man looked beaten and haggard. His face showed that he had been through hell and back, well, at least the portion that Naruto could see anyway. The Junin looked up to Naruto before giving him a weak smile behind his mask, his visible eye closing a bit. Naruto. I'm glad to see you're doing well. Naruto reached his old sensei in less than 5 steps. Kakashi-sensei, what the hell happened to you? You look like you've had your ass beaten by Tsunade Bachan 6 times before Sakura-chan had a go at you. Kakashi chuckled a bit as he placed a single arm on Naruto's shoulder. Well, that's not what happened, but I wish that was the case. The silver-haired man's features darkened considerably before he continued. Naruto. I don't know how else to go about saying this. The blonde bit his lip as he saw Kakashi struggle to speak. That was definitely not a good thing, considering what the man had been through in his lifetime. Most of the dangers of the shinobi world didn't have such a strong effect on him, as far as Naruto could tell at least. Kakashi-sensei. The Junin took in a deep breath, exhaling and looking Naruto, the weariness and trauma from whatever he had been through showing clearly in his eyes. Konoha's gone, Naruto, all of it's gone. The enemy had come without any prior warning. First thing he heard was that an unidentified individual had entered the barrier surrounding Konoha. And the next thing he knew, giant summons were wreaking havoc upon Konoha while civilian and shinobi alike were scattered among the fighting. A few explosions went off in the distance, buildings going up in flames. Kakashi cursed whatever higher power had allowed the village to be attacked like this, and headed towards the scene. Kakashi-senpai. Wait. The Junin halted just as he was about to jump off to the fighting, looking over his shoulder to see a weary-looking male shinobi in Anbu attire. What? Hokage-sama has requested you go to the Hokage Tower immediately. No questions asked. Kakashi let out a groan, but turned around, running towards the tower. Within less than a minute, Kakashi was on the roof of the Hokage Tower where Tsunade was looking over the scene. Hokage-sama. Tsunade looked to the Junin, closed her eyes, and turned back to the scene. Kakashi. I need you to leave the village with Sakura. Now. What? Kakashi asked. Hokage-sama, I'm sure you're aware of the fact that I'm perfectly aware that we're under attack. Tsunade snapped. Kakashi Hatake, I'm assigning you an S-class mission. This mission may very well be the last mission I ever give you, so listen well. Kakashi bowed his head. Forgive me, Hokage-sama. Whatever, just listen. Tsunade looked back to the carnage before speaking. You're to leave Konoha with Sakura and take with you the one existent copy of the scroll that held the instructions for teleporting to the world Naruto's residing in. The scroll is the key to keeping Akatsuki from succeeding in whatever the hell they plan on doing with the Biju. Sakura is the only other person who has any knowledge of that scroll's existence. If Akatsuki catches wind of the fact she was Naruto's teammate, they'll likely try to capture her and interrogate her. If they intercept that scroll. Kakashi gave a nod. I understand. Tsunade pulled a small scroll out of her pocket that was simply labeled, Youkai, guard it with your life if you must, Kakashi. Kakashi gave another bow. When do I return, Hokage-sama? When it's safe. For now, find a secure place outside of the village to lay low. One of the nearby towns may work. If worse comes to worse though, you are to use the scroll itself and travel to the place where Naruto is residing. I believe you've already been given a brief rundown on the situation at that place, correct? She saw the Junin nod. Very well. You have your orders, Kakashi. Understood. Kakashi replied. He dashed off, trying to peg the location of his former student, Sakura. He quickly ran through a few hand seals and slammed a hand on the ground, calling forth a small dog. Kakashi, what's up? Spoke Pakun. The Junin nodded to the dog. I need you to lead me to Sakura. You got it. Pakun gave a pod salute and sniffed the air. Follow me. Sakura heaved back a sigh as she crushed in the head of a gigantic centipede-like summon with her bare fists. She had been a bit shocked to find such giant creatures running wild within the village's walls. Taking matters into her own hands, literally, she had run towards a group of retreating civilians and decked the many-legged summon creature in the head, effectively stopping it in its path. She surveyed the area and noticed a few injured shinobi lying nearby. She ran towards them, and without even thinking set to work on healing. As she mended wounds with her healing chakra, an uneasy feeling crept over her. She glanced over her shoulder and gasped. There stood the centipede creature she had supposedly killed moments ago. Its exoskeleton was dented pretty badly on the head area, but it was still alive. The massive creature let out a screech before snapping its jaws repeatedly and lunging towards the kunoichi. The bug was moving surprisingly quick. She hopped onto a roof, only for the segmented beast to be right behind her. She hopped a few more times from roof to roof, hoping to draw it away from the injured. This has to be Akatsuki. Sakura thought, they're probably after Naruto. Tsunade-sama was right, they would come here to capture him sooner rather than later. Sakura jumped off another roof, but before she could land, a massive object made contact with her side, sending her flying into a building. She let out a cry of pain as her back hit the wall hard, a loud snapping sound reverberating in her body as she landed. She tried to get up, but found her legs unresponsive. Oh no, please not here. Sakura panicked, trying to move her legs. Now that she took a moment, she couldn't feel any pain from legs all of a sudden. Nothing. Her arms, torso, and head were fine, but she couldn't feel anything from her waist down. I must have damaged my spinal cord below the thoracic vertebrae. Sakura thought, pulling out a kunai. She was running on adrenaline now, and leg movement or not, she would be damned if she went down without putting up something of a fight. The summon made a clicking sound as it approached her. Its jaws opened, and it let out another screech before lunging towards Sakura. The kunoichi threw her kunai, and effectively hit one of the eyes of the beast. However, this only deterred it for a moment, and it recovered and raised its head up to get a good look at the kunoichi. Sakura scooted against a wall and propped herself against it. I won't die, not yet. Sakura felt her hands tremble as she grabbed another kunai. She could probably get the injuries to her spinal column treated, but only within an hour's time. After that, even the miraculous powers of chakra wouldn't be able to fix the nerve tissue damage on her spinal cord. The centipede lunged a second time, and Sakura threw her kunai. This time, unfortunately, the kunai bounced harmlessly off the exoskeleton. Sakura had not expected to move to the side, however. She found herself on the ground, about a foot away from where the centipede's might jaws had clamped down. She had been in that very spot only moments ago. How had she moved though? Looking towards the beast, she found the answer to her question. There, less than a foot from the jaws of the beast was Sai. He held his right arm with his left. Well, what should have been his right arm, anyway? He grit his teeth. Sakura, are you alright? Sakura blinked several times. Sai had managed to push her out of the way. She focused her attention on her teammate, then to the wound he had received. Oh, Sai. Your arm. Sai shook his head. I think it would be best if we not talk about that. He got up and ran towards the kunoichi, and without a word, picked her up. Are you able to hold on? Yes. Sai leapt onto the rooftops with Sakura holding her arms around his shoulders, intent on getting some distance between them and the summon. It seemed the giant creature had lost interest, luckily, and the duo managed to land several blocks away from the creature. Sai, give me your arm. It can. Don't bullshit with me, now show me. Sakura growled. Sai gave in, and held out what was now a stump of his right arm, having been severed by the razor-sharp jaws of the centipede. What was worse, if Sakura remembered correctly, that had been Sai's drawing arm. Did the other part of your arm fall to the ground? Sai shook his head. I think that bug ate it. Sakura sighed, and set to work. She quickly pumped healing chakra over the wound, and then called upon her chakra scalpel and ran it over the stump, effectively cauterizing it. That's not the best that I could do, but it'll have to suffice. Fake limbs can be applied later. I only gave it a light cauterizing, so we can place something over it later in. Sakura. Sai. The two looked to see Kakashi, along with Pakun, landing beside them. The Junin nodded once to the small dog, and the canine dismissed itself in a puff of smoke. Kakashi-sensei. Sakura gave a confused look to the Junin. I thought you'd be out on the front lines. Kakashi shook his head to the rosette. No, I'm afraid I've got other orders from Tsunade-sama herself. He looked to Sai. Sai, would you be able to help me and Sakura get out of the village? What? Sakura shouted. Kakashi-sensei, are you saying we're abandoning the... No. We're under orders, Sakura. Now come on, let's get moving. I can't. Kakashi looked to Sakura. What are you talking about? Sakura, we have no time to waste here, let's. She's paralyzed from the waist down, Kakashi-sensei. Sai replied. Kakashi's eyes widened, and he noticed Sakura look away with something resembling shame in her eyes. I see. Sakura, grab a hold of my shoulders and I'll carry you. After getting the kunoichi on his back, the trio ran towards the main gate of Konoha. It was rather easy, all things considered, seeing as there were shinobi running all about. They blended it rather well. The gate could be seen from where they were as they ran down the main drag of Konoha. In about another 2 minutes they would be there and out of the village walls. If they could just get outside the walls. Kakashi felt a sudden weight settle upon him before an explosion went off somewhere within Konoha's center. Less than a second later, a cloud of dust blasted towards him. He was flung into the air, still holding Sakura, and crashed hard onto the roof of a building as the structure collapsed from the random shockwave. He fell down through the building's roof, smashing his arms and legs against the wooden structures, feeling his bones break several times as he fell through the wooden structure. He landed hard, groaning in pain as he looked up. For a moment, he couldn't hear anything, an incessant buzzing in his ears the only sound audible to him. He looked around him, taking in the scenery before him. Chaos. That was all he could think. Konoha lay in ruin around him. How could the mighty village of Konoha fall so damn quickly? The place had been leveled in a single attack. What kind of jutsu could do such a thing? The village, which had been a loud and noisy wreck just several moments ago, was now eerily quiet. He extended his senses a bit, but only felt the chakra signatures of Sakura and Sai. It was as if the village had been silenced. Konoha had been destroyed in a single swoop, the Junin realized. He glanced around, the Hokage Tower, the gate, the various estates, it was all destroyed. Hell, he was pretty sure that they were in the middle of a crater now. Whatever had hit them had impacted with the village with an incredible force. Kakashi, sensei. The Junin looked over his shoulder while wincing in pain, and noticed the pink-haired girl had a jagged piece of wood embedded in her back. Sakura. Kakashi spoke. Gritting his teeth and ignoring the sharp sensations from his injuries, he managed to dig into his pocket and pulled out the scroll Tsunade had given him. He noticed that Sai was only several feet away from the two, which was next to miraculous. Using his strength, Kakashi dragged him and the now unconscious Sakura over to the injured root member, and tore open the scroll before lifting his Hitai-8, exposing his Sharingan. He let out a ragged breath as he read over the scroll's contents with his Sharingan, put the scroll back into his pocket, and set Sakura gently onto the ground. He continued to ignore the sharp pain in his shoulders, thankful they hadn't been dislocated, and began to form seals as fast as his beaten body could allow. After what felt like a minute, Kakashi slammed his hands onto the ground. Fuin, Tenchi Shuyaku no Jutsu. A glowing light surrounded the Junin, and he quickly grabbed both of the younger shinobi and pulled them towards him. He felt a pull on his navel area, and his world went white. Anyone who would have arrived at the scene where he used the realm jump technique would have only found a small plume of smoke, and nothing more. And that's pretty much what happened. Kakashi finished. He had taken a chair in front of the chairman's desk, and was now watching the blonde in front of him. Sakura's been in a mild, unresponsive state, but she's not comatose, thankfully. Sai's in the intensive care unit of the Academy hospital area with her, and thanks to Sakura, most of the major problems have been resolved for him. He'll need a full treatment though from a better hospital, however. Kakashi was quiet afterwards, staring at the rather unreadable expression Naruto had on his face. The blonde seemed to be giving no sign of emotion, his eyes refusing to blink. Kakashi was getting worried, preparing to speak again when he saw it. A build-up of moisture in Naruto's eyes. He could see the boy's throat begin to tighten, and the boy's lips opened as he grit his teeth. So, you think it was Akatsuki? Kakashi sighed, I'd put my money on it. The summons were a bit odd to me, I'd never seen such creatures before. He looked to see the blonde hadn't made any indication that he was listening. The explosion was definitely chakra-based, that much I could tell. I just couldn't tell where or how it happened. Naruto's eyes remained glued to the floor as he spoke, if I had been there. Naruto, if you had been there, you might have been captured. Kakashi began, we're here because of you. I know you hate to hear this, but your safety is, in the end, more valuable than my own. Naruto slowly shook his head, why didn't anyone stop them before they got there? The Junin closed his eyes, I think they managed to get some knowledge on Konoha's patrolling system, and they obviously expected the barrier. They came more prepared than we were. Naruto was silent for almost a minute before he let out a ragged breath, first Arrow Sennin, now Konoha. Well, there's always the chance that shinobi survived, Naruto. Kakashi pointed out, trying to grasp at whatever he could. Naruto was showing telltale signs of an approaching mental breakdown. Naruto's breathing began to quicken, why? Why does it always happen to the people I care about? He balled his hands into fists, this is all because of me being the Jinchuuriki of Kono. Kakashi took a step forward, placing a firm, yet supportive, hand on his shoulder, Naruto, it's not your fault. The Junin then recalled the information Tsunade had given him about what Naruto had likely learned about recently, your father did what he had to do to save Konoha those years back. You're not at fault for holding a Biju within you. The blonde's bangs shadowed his eyes as he looked to the ground, how can you possibly believe that I'm not to blame for what happened to Konoha? Kakashi was taken aback by Naruto's tone, it was so hollow. The boy's eyes looked up to Kakashi, a bitter smile on his face, no matter what I do to help, I still bring problems to them because of Akatsuki. Ninja have died to protect me, and I'm still too weak to do anything about it. Kakashi watched as Naruto slowly walked towards the door leading out of the office. Kakashi opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. He couldn't think of anything to say that would bring the blonde out of this depression. Hell, he was pretty sure the kid was still beating himself up over the loss of Jiraiya. Now he had this bomb dropped on him. The door closed as the Jinchuuriki boy left the office. Kakashi's head drooped as he sat in a chair, my apologies, chairman. I think I've just made things worse for Naruto. The chairman frowned a bit, you've all been through hardships that most beings, human and monster alike, would have probably given up after experiencing. Your people are truly a model of resilience. He turned towards the window behind him, and opened the drapes as he stood up, you're free to stay as long as you need. I can help set up a place for the three of you to live in outside of the Osaka-Kobe-Kyoto metropolitan area of Japan. Kakashi raised an eyebrow, Japan. The chairman nodded, correct. Japan's an island nation with a long cultural history. Based on what Jiraiya-sama had told me about your world, you'll probably be able to adjust to the area easily. It's outside of the busy city and residential area, a good kilometer or so from a nice temple and shrine as well. I think you and your students could use some peace after what you've been through. Thank you, but what about Naruto? I think we should keep an eye on him as well, the Junin added. I'm aware of that. You'll be happy to know that we have several events throughout the year where family members are encouraged to visit the students. That and we have a mailing service if you wish to keep in touch with him, as well as phones and email. Email. Kakashi repeated, just how much further ahead of us is your world to that of the elemental nations in technology? The chairman chuckled, several centuries in some aspects, less in others. Kakashi shook his head, I should probably go after Naruto. Depression and him are not good together. The chairman nodded, I suppose you know him better than I do. Just be careful around here, our world's not exactly human-friendly. The Junin nodded, and got up, limping out of the office on both crutches to try and catch up with his wayward student. Mizore was worried when the hour came and went and Naruto had not returned to class. Was he in trouble? She sighed as she entered the girls' gym locker room, and changed her clothes. She didn't see him on the way to gym class. Naruto never missed gym class unless he had a good reason. Something was definitely wrong. Whether it was something that involved him academically or otherwise, she didn't know, but she just hoped he was okay. The class went on fairly quickly. Basketball always seemed to be that way for Mizore. She just wished that Naruto was there to help her team. The other students also took notice of his absence, especially the ones who were usually playing on the same team as him and Mizore. After gym, she quickly headed towards Nekonome's classroom for newspaper club. She entered, and noticed that she was actually early. The only other person there was Jin. He turned towards the sound of the door opening, and offered her a small smile. "Hey, Mizore." Mizore gave a withering glare, but decided to try and give the boy a second chance with being her friend, Jin-senpai. She nodded. "You alright? You look bothered." Jin asked, sounding genuinely concerned. "I can't have my writers stressed out if we plan on getting the first issue out before the end of the week." Mizore pulled the sucker she usually had in her mouth out. "Do you know anything about the chairman of Youkai Academy?" Jin raised an eyebrow. "The chairman? Not personally, but I hear he's a really intelligent being among Youkai. I've also heard he has amazing powers." "Oh." Mizore sighed. "That's worrisome." "Why do you ask?" Jin questioned, pulling up a chair as Mizore plopped into a desk. "It's about Naruto-kun. He was called to the chairman's office during homeroom today." Mizore answered. "I was worried that he got in trouble with the school." A knowing smile crossed Jin's lips. "Naruto-kun, huh? Would this Naruto happen to be the same one that recently joined the karate club?" Mizore's face flushed lightly with red. "Why yes. He's a good friend of mine. I respect him a lot, and he's a truly nice person." Jin raised his hands in defense. "Alright, no need to get all flustered." He rubbed his chin. "Well, usually if the chairman wants to speak to someone in person, then it's probably more important than receiving punishment. The police committee seems to holding a monopoly over the punishment area." A scowl formed on Jin's features as he finished speaking. The door opened, and the two looked to see Yukari, Kurumu, Mocha, and Sukune entering the classroom. Kurumu sent Mizore a worried look. "Is it true? Naruto-kun was sent to the chairman's office?" Mizore nodded, and the succubus frowned. "Oh. Well, I'm sure it's nothing bad, right?" Yukari spoke up, trying to lighten the mood. "Maybe it's something good. Maybe he's getting honors for gym class." Jin snorted a bit. That would be a first. After a few more minutes of talking about the blonde-haired boy, the group decided to set their mind on their work. Kurumu began to finish up her article on making butterscotch and toffee cookies while Mocha and Yukari continued on their article for studying tips. Sukune was trying to figure out how to start his article on local happenings in school sports while Mizore did the finishing touches on her start of the school year article. Meanwhile, Jin was tapping his pencil on the desk he sat at while looking at a photograph he had managed to take. "Who are you?" he asked, looking at the picture. The photo was of a figure delivering a powerful uppercut to one of the mermaids from the swimming club. Ever since his recent encounter with the Arashi ninja, Jin had curious as to who the person was behind the mask. Well, if he was honest with himself, he had been curious since he first encountered the kid. He was definitely a kid, probably younger than him, even. "Jin-senpai." The club president looked up and smiled as Mizore handed him an article. "Ah, great. First article for the paper is finished then, huh?" Mizore nodded. "It's no more than a page long, but I figured if I made it any longer I'd be wasting space." The Yuki Onna looked at the photo on Jin's desk and let out a hum. "The Arashi ninja." Jin frowned as she smirked. Yeah, just don't bring up that last incident. I said I'm sorry, right? For scaring Mocha and attacking her. You never apologized for what you did to Sukune, though. Mizore added, you should do that if you ever plan on getting back on good terms with the rest of them. Jin shrugged, sure. He lifted the photo. It's a shame, really. The guy's obviously a great fighter, though from what I saw, he has no true combat style. He was hard to read at times. The werewolf chuckled, you know, I can't say I hate the guy. He's so far done more good than the police committee's ever done for our school. Kurumu, who overheard the conversation, walked over to the desk. What's the matter with the police committee? Better yet, who are they to begin with? Who, the police committee? Jin asked, receiving a nod from the succubus. Officially speaking, they're supposedly the policing force of Youkai, but I'd hardly call them that. They're a group of students who are especially strong. They monitor the day-to-day activities of the students and make sure nothing bad happens. He rolled his neck a bit before he continued. Now, I don't want you repeating this for your own sakes, but I think they're a group of power-hungry bastards who are hellbent on making this place a completely militarized area. They punish without questioning, and they have been known to on more than one occasion lock up students for no reason other than suspicion of illicit activities. You never see those kids again. Kurumu shuddered. They sound horrible. They're corrupt. Jin spoke. I've had a bit of a history with them, being the only source of student-run press around here. Word spreads fast through the news, and of course if anything that could hurt their image is reported, I have to deal with them. By now, everyone in the room was listening. Sukune decided to speak. So, how come you're not expelled? Jin snickered. They don't want to lose face with the student body, believe it or not. Even if they are the policing force, if the majority doesn't like them, they'll have more work cut out for them. I guess I'm lucky with having a good portion of the students favoring me. Even though you're a pervert? Yukari asked with a flat expression. Jin simply grinned. Do you think that the Arashi ninja is at risk of being arrested? Mocha asked. Hard to say. I mean, he's obviously overstepping boundaries with the vigilante business, but not once have I heard that he killed anyone. That's a definite plus. Not only that, but he's actually helping students. Not just doing whatever he feels like. The group was quiet for a moment as they all let Jin's words sink in. If this police committee was a real problem, then why weren't they being dealt with by the academy? Surely students have reported them, right? Well, regardless, I want to try and see what we can do about getting information on this ninja guy. It was Mocha who decided to speak up upon hearing that. You don't plan on exposing who he is, do you? Her voice sounded somewhat defensive. I mean, he saved us twice now. Yeah, and fought me the second time. Jin grumbled. No, I don't want to expose this guy's identity. I just want to, I don't know, get a better understanding of why he does what he does, you know. I could see about getting information on him. Mizore spoke. Jin smiled. Great. How do you plan on going about that? Kurumu snorted with laughter. She's good at hiding. Trust us, she can do this better than any of us. The werewolf blinked in mild confusion, but shrugged it off, accepting what the underclassmen were willing to contribute. Fair enough. Let's continue for another hour or two before we break for the day. Right. The group replied, continuing with their business. I'm sorry, Uzumaki-san hasn't reported in to visit either of the two recent patients. Hackett-san, replied the nurse. If I see him though, I'll be sure to let him know you were looking for him. Thank you, it's appreciated. Kakashi gave the school nurse a nod before walking down the hall towards Sakura's room. He had thought Naruto would visit Sakura and Sai. Kakashi opened the door quietly, looking in to see his former student lying on the bed, sleeping peacefully. He let out a breath and walked in slowly. The quiet beeping of a machine let him know that she was fine, but still unconscious. He wasn't sure what most of the equipment did. It was a little different from the stuff that had been at Konoha's hospital, and there were some additional devices attached to her that he was pretty sure he had never seen before. They didn't use any seals or healing jutsu on her, but anesthetics and antibiotics that he had never heard of before. No herbs either. He chalked it all up to the supposed technology gap between the two worlds. He was just thankful that she was fine for the most part. The doctors had stated she would probably be up within a day or two. Taking a good look at her, he couldn't help but feel a slight wave of depression fall upon himself. The breathing mask around her, along with all the tubes connecting to her, made the once proud and strong Kunoichi appear frail and weak. If perhaps he had been there sooner. Shaking his head, he looked to the other bed in the room, and his thoughts lightened up a little. Sai was currently sleeping soundly, having been knocked out some time ago after his arm had been thoroughly treated. Had it not been for him, Sakura may have been killed. The nurses had commented that his arm looked well healed, considering it had been treated in such a dangerous situation by Sakura. Kakashi had stated that Sakura was one of the village's best medi-nin, which the hospital faculty seemed to accept without any questions. If anything, it drove them to work harder on getting the girl back to the conscious world faster. Hitaki-san. Kakashi turned towards the door to see the nurse giving him a sad smile. I'm sorry, but I can only allow a limited visiting time for these two children. They need as much rest as possible. The Junin gave a nod. I understand. I just wanted to make sure they're doing all right. He limped over to the doorway, crutches creaking a bit as he moved. How is Sai doing? He's recovered well, physically at least. I don't think he'll be recovering as quickly from the mental damage though. Losing his right arm seems to have been a major blow to his psyche, the nurse replied with a frown, looking to the pale-skinned boy. I can imagine. He did well, all things considered. Kakashi agreed. How about yourself, Hitaki-san? Are you feeling alright? The Junin gave a nod while smiling, his eyes closing a little as he turned to the nurse. I'm hardly in any shape to complain. There's only a dull throbbing in my left leg, but it seems my fractures in the arms weren't as bad as I thought. The nurse gave a small frown to the man. I still believe it would be better if you were to stay in a bed until you're fully recovered. Kakashi chuckled quietly. We shinobi heal faster than you may think. I've had much worse than this and moved without too much trouble. If you insist. I wish the chairman would allow us to treat you properly, but apparently he trusts in your judgment. Ma, I've never been a fan of hospitals as it is. Don't worry about me, get these kids up and moving and I'll follow in suit. Hitaki-san, will you be resting here tonight? The Junin, who was now heading towards the exit of the hospital wing, stopped and glanced over his shoulder. Oh, yes, if you could get a bed made for me, I would appreciate that. The nurse smiled while giving a nod. Understood. Good luck with your search for Uzumaki-san. Thanks. Kakashi walked down the corridors of the school once more, thinking to himself on where Naruto could have possibly gone. If the boy wasn't visiting his teammates, and wasn't in class. He's either wandering aimlessly or training. Kakashi thought, well, I should see if I can pinpoint his chakra anywhere. Kakashi's eyes closed as he tried to get a peg on the boy's chakra signature. With his senses heightened, he'd have an easier time finding the boy, hopefully. Hope Naruto-kun's, he's been busy, he doesn't need any more stress. Kakashi's eyes opened, someone was talking about Naruto. Well, Kakashi believed that it was the same Naruto he knew. Not too many kids were named after a product made of fish that was put in your ramen broth. He looked down the hall where the voice was coming from, and spotted a purple-haired girl talking with a girl that had light blue-colored hair. They both were heading towards him. He raised a hand and waved, giving them a kind smile, even if they couldn't see it. Afternoon, girls. The two stopped, and gave him a rather startled look upon seeing his appearance. The girl with light blue-colored hair, who Kakashi noted had a severe case of early physical maturity, spoke first. Hello, is there something we can help you with? Kakashi gave a nod. I couldn't help but overhear you speaking about a person I may know. Were you by any chance talking about a certain Naruto Uzumaki? Mizore and Kurumu exchanged nervous expressions before Mizore spoke. Yes, that's the Naruto we know. What about him? Kakashi maintained his disarming demeanor. No sense in making the two girls any more uneasy. I'm Kakashi Hitaki, and Naruto used to be a student of mine back in our little village. I was just hoping to see him. I have something important to talk to him about. Is that why he got called to the chairman's office? To talk to you. Kakashi sighed. Well, yes, but we never got to finish talking. So, what did you teach back where you lived? Mizore asked. Kakashi spoke before he even thought it through. Philosophy. Kurumu gave the man an incredulous look. Philosophy. You don't look like someone who'd teach something like that. Well, if you're going to be that way, I can't see how you're of school age with your top-heavy physique. Kakashi replied without missing a beat. Kurumu blinked while her mouth opened and closed, trying to formulate a response. Mizore laughed a bit. Sorry, Kakashi-san. We're good friends with Naruto, actually. She placed a hand on Kurumu's shoulders to keep her from attempting to cause any harm to the Junin. I'm Mizore Shirayuki, and this is my friend Kurumu Kurono. Well, it's good to see some of the youth still retains manners. Kakashi said, further teasing Kurumu as she glowered at him. So, do you have any idea where I may be able to find Naruto? Kurumu regained her composure somewhat. Why did he leave the office? Kakashi scratched his head. The topic of discussion was a touchy subject to him, but it was of great importance that I talked to him about it. Is it something bad? Mizore asked, sensing that the silver-haired man wasn't telling them the whole story. Yes, for the most part I'd say it was about something that wasn't good for him to hear. Like I said, though, it was important that he knew about what I told him. Mizore hummed in thought. Naruto's fairly good at making himself hard to find when he wants. We're all in the newspaper club, except for him. He's in the karate club. I heard he likes to spend his free time practicing in the dojo. Karate club, huh? Kakashi held back a chuckle. He was happy that Naruto had found an outlet for his endless supply of energy. Do you think you could help direct me to the karate club's dojo? Kurumu and Mizore agreed to help Kakashi to the dojo. Within 10 minutes they had reached the gymnasium, and when they walked into the dojo and asked for Naruto, the karate club members stated that he hadn't appeared at all today for practice. That's not like him. Naruto loves gym and karate club. Mizore stated, just how bad was the news you gave him? Kakashi shook his head. It's a personal matter. The two girls decided not to pry, but they were now more concerned for their blonde friend's well-being. After searching around the campus area for a good hour and a half, the trio had realized it was getting close to dark. I'm sorry we couldn't help find him, Hitaki-san. Kurumu spoke to the Junin. We'll be sure to let the chairman know if we find him. Kakashi gave the two a thankful nod. I would appreciate it. Sorry for taking up so much of your time. It's all right, Kakashi-san. Mizore replied while waving a hand. Naruto's our friend. Anything that concerns him is not a waste of our time. With that, Kakashi made his way back to the main academic building. Thought he wouldn't show it openly, he was a bit exhausted. He hardly got any rest since he had warped over her from Konoha, and it was starting to affect him. He'd need all the rest he could get if he planned on continuing with the last mission he ever received from Tsunade. Watching over Naruto, Sakura, and Sai was his top priority now. He'd be damned if he let them down. He had an idea formulating in his mind on what he could do for Naruto, as well as Sakura and Sai. It'd be a shot in the dark for him, and the very idea may also upset the three young shinobi horribly. Still, if his idea worked, he'd be able to better help them in this new world. He'd have to discuss with the chairman on the options available to him. If adoption was anything like it was in Konoha, then he was sure there would be more than enough paperwork for the Junin to deal with. It was probably around 8 o'clock by the time Sukune had managed to finish up his homework. He stretched a bit and let out a yawn. Gah, now that I got that out of the way. He looked over to his window and noticed the sun had long set behind the horizon. He got up and walked out of his dorm room. Heading down the hall, he stopped in front of Naruto's room. Knocking 3 times, he waited for the blonde to answer, but none came. Huh, wonder where he is. Sukune pondered. He walked down the staircase, and exited the boys' dorm. He walked down the road to the girls' dorms. He walked through the front office and signed in on the guests list. Heading up a few floors, he walked over to the door that belonged to Mocha. Knocking once, he heard a, just a second. From the other side, the door opened to reveal Mocha in her pajamas. Oh. Sukune-kun. Her face burst out into a smile. What are you doing here? It's a bit late to be visiting, don't you think? Ah, sorry to bother you like that, Mocha. Sukune apologized. I was just wondering if the others ever found out where Naruto went. He didn't answer when I knocked on his door, and I don't think he's returned since he left class earlier today. Mocha shook her head. Kurumu stopped by with Mizore, and apparently they found out a little bit on the reason why Naruto was called to the chairman's office. What was the reason? Well, I guess a former teacher of Naruto's from his hometown stopped by to talk to Naruto about something that was both important and upsetting, at least that's what Mizore said. The vampire girl scratched her cheek. The teacher was a bit of an odd one, according to Kurumu, but he taught philosophy in Naruto's school back home. His name was Kakashi or something like that. Scarecrow. Sukune thought, that's a weird name. Then again, Naruto's named after a fish cake. Mocha added, I guess his village has a love for unconventional names. Sukune nodded. Could I come in? Mocha smiled. Sure, Sukune-kun. I made some pasta, and I had planned on saving some for tomorrow, but you're welcome to have some of it. After helping himself to a bowl of the spaghetti and tomato sauce that Mocha had made, Sukune sighed. I hope Naruto's alright. If what Mizore and Kurumu said is true, then Naruto probably got some really bad news from back home. You know, we haven't seen much of Naruto at all lately outside of class. He hasn't come over and studied more than a handful of times with us, and Yukari said he never shows up for her tutoring lessons anymore. I know it's been only a few weeks since school started, but it seems so unlike him to just disappear like that. I know. Sukune looked to see Mocha was looking out her window at the moon. Something wrong, Mocha? Just thinking back on when Jin-senpai had that incident with us. Mocha sighed, I'm glad he's apologized to us, and I really think he's learned his lesson, but... She frowned, I can't help but wonder why so many of the boys around here are trying to force you to be with them. Sukune offered. Mocha looked up and gave a weak smile. I guess that's the best way to put it, though I'm not sure if that was the case with Seizu. When Jin-senpai was with me, at least he wasn't hurting me outright. Not until my other self came out, that is. Yeah, and then the Arashi ninja showed up. Though, I think you saved him that night, haha. Sukune joked. Really? Sukune raised an eyebrow. Yeah, don't you remember? Jin-senpai had him pinned on the ground when you jumped in to help him. Sukune laughed, you even managed to kick him off the roof, hey. I barely remember any of that. It's like I'm in a dream most of the time when my inner half is taking over. We've only spoken a little to each other, but she never tells me much of what she does. Wow, so it's almost like two different parts of you are in one, huh? Sukune laughed. Not exactly. We're on in the same, it's just that her half is what the rosary suppresses, that's part of me. Mocha chewed on her thumb as she thought, my father made it for me years ago. I never started talking to my inner self until just recently though. Well, I like you no matter what part is awake, Mocha. Sukune declared with a smile. Mocha blushed prettily and gave a small, thanks. Sukune just grinned a little, a light blush adorning his own face. The two chatted for about another hour, Mocha asking in her most sugar-coated voice if Sukune would let her suck on his blood. After having her late-night snack, she hugged Sukune tightly and said she needed to get to sleep, thanking him for the blood. Sukune, despite feeling a little lightheaded from the sudden blood loss, couldn't really find a reason to complain. She was possibly the sweetest girl he had ever met, and she was incredibly smart too. Not to mention beautiful, charismatic, creative. I could probably go on and on. Sukune laughed as he headed back to the boys' dorm. 3 days had gone by since Naruto had gone missing from Sukune and the others. Several times they had looked around campus, no sign of him in any of his usual haunts. They had started to worry that maybe he had dropped out without telling anyone, but Nekonome as well as his other classes still called out his name when they were doing attendance. Tomorrow the first issue of the newspaper would be released to the student populace. Mizore was rather excited. She had managed to get 2 articles made for it, a second being a small poetry section where she also would allow students to make contributions. Currently she was on her way back to the girls' dorm, but had decided to take the scenic route, going along the path near the jagged cliffs overlooking the ocean near campus. She needed to clear her thoughts. Despite the excitement running through her on being able to release the first issue of the newspaper, she couldn't help but think about what became of Naruto. She had visited Kakashi again since she first saw the man, more or less to ask if he had any luck finding the blonde. He too had not found the blonde yet, so her mood had been relatively sour for the past 2 days. She wasn't entirely sure why she had been feeling as such lately. It wasn't like Naruto was a person she was in love with or anything. He was a dear friend at best, but she still didn't know much about him. Maybe it was because she just enjoyed his presence. Something about the boy just made her feel safe. And secure, she supposed. It was like he was emitting a safety blanket-like aura at all times. She supposed it was just the way his life force was like. However, she also sensed a deeper part of him that he kept locked up inside him. She was by no means a psychic, but she could had a knack for seeing people at face value. Naruto was trustworthy, but she got the impression that he was the kind of person who wouldn't throw his concerns on others without reason. He's probably going to show up in a few days if he's still on campus and act like nothing happened. Mizore thought, I'll have to get the truth from him. Well, if it isn't our favorite Yuki Onna. Mizore froze in place, feeling a sudden dread wash over her. She turned around to see none other Katsubo Okuto standing a few feet behind her, Kei Katsubo-sensei. You shouldn't be wandering around here when it's so windy out, Shirayuki-san. If a strong wind were to blow you off the cliff, well. He chuckled while walking towards her, the expression on his face not giving off the best of vibes to the girl. What do you want, Katsubo-sensei? I asked that you leave me alone, and we just forget about what happened. He gave her a small smile, I'm afraid that won't be happening, Shirayuki-san. Okudo spoke. You see, I recently found out that you're part of the newspaper club, of all things. That's not good for me. Suppose that you decide to write a rather slanderous article about me. His smile was now a rather wicked grin. I'm afraid I'm going to have to rid this school of you, Shirayuki-san. Mizore backed away from the gym teacher, though she found herself running out of ground. Turning around, she could see that there was no more than a foot between her and the edge of the cliff looking out towards the ocean. Katsubo-sensei, leave me alone. She stated firmly, her hair starting to turn a light blue while the temperature around her began to cool rapidly. If you come any closer, I'll. Mizore's voice was cut off as something wrapped around her throat. She felt her air supply suddenly drop, and looked to see a giant tentacle coming from what used to be the arms of the gym teacher. He now had the body of an octopus from what it appeared, yet he also had his human body as well. What are you? Mizore asked in a strained voice, unsure what to make of the monstrosity before her. A kraken. Okuto replied with a chuckle, a mythical beast of the sea, often blamed for shipwrecks in the older days of human seafaring. He walked towards the edge of the cliff while keeping his grip around Mizore's neck tight. I was just teasing you, Shirayuki-san, at the start. Then you had to go and get all defensive about it, and let us be seen by that damn Uzumaki boy. Okudo dropped off the cliff while holding onto some roots sticking out of the ground with his tentacles. I guess you're leaving me no alternative. I'll just drag you down with me to the bottom of the ocean. No. Mizore choked out, her vision growing blurry from the lack of oxygen. Naruto sat on a branch near the edge of the forest where he had his training ground set up. He had been here for a couple of days now, and in truth, he wasn't sure why he had gone and hid like that. He was still feeling pretty crappy, no doubt about it, but the thought of what Jiraiya had said in his letter replayed in his mind. Jiraiya had basically, in his own way, stated that Naruto was a man of great potential. He had the will of fire within him, damn it, and he refused to let it die off now. After realizing that sulking and lamenting about Konoha wasn't going to do him anything, he decided to work on his training even more so. So for the past day he had been spending 4-hour increments going through everything he knew. He went through Fuden, Suiten, Taijutsu, Ninjutsu, Katas, Fuinjutsu. By the time he was finished, he had napped for half the day. He had just woken up and was trying to collect his thoughts now. I can't let that happen again. Naruto thought aloud, his thoughts on the fate of Konoha. I can't let anyone else I know get hurt because of me. The faces of Sukune, Mocha, Mizore, Yukari, and Kurumu went through his mind. They had made friends with him, and for that he was thankful. There was the fact he hadn't shared with them the fact he housed a demonic fox within him, but that will have to wait until later. Naruto thought. A sudden scream snapped him out of his thoughts. Naruto whipped his head towards the end of the forest, and noticed two figures by the edge of the cliffs facing towards the ocean. He recognized one of them as Mizore, but the other. Damn it, Naruto thought, pulling out a scroll from his pocket, whatever is going on, it can't be good. Okudo held the young Yuki Onna by her neck, taking his pleasant time to drain her of air. It's too bad you had to go and become a pain like this, Shirayuki-san. I wouldn't have to get rid of you for good if you had just not blown all of this out of proportion. Suigotten. Okudo looked to the side. What the hell? A column of water seemed to rise up from the ocean before slamming into the side of the kraken. Okudo let out a cry of pain as he was sent flying into the watery depths below, Mizore falling with him. Just before the Yuki Onna was pulled down with the octopus monster, a flash of steel flew past, severing the tentacle wrapped around her neck. She gasped while sucking in air, and noticed she was somehow floating above the water. She blinked, then looked to find two muscular arms wrapped around her. Are you alright, Mizore-chan? Mizore blinked as she faced the person who had saved her, Aarashi Ninja-san. Sure enough, the masked ninja of Youkai was the one who was currently holding her bridal style. He gave her a nod and looked into the water below. So far I've yet to get a good impression from the aquatic monsters around here. First the mermaids, now a kraken. Before Mizore could comment, several tentacles rose up from the ocean. Naruto instinctively jumped back and hopped onto the side of the cliff, holding onto it via chakra. Hold on, Mizore-chan. I'm going to get you back up to there, alright. How are wa? Mizore yelped as the Arashi ninja ran up the cliff side. How are you doing that? Haha, ninja secret. I'm afraid I can't share, replied Naruto. So, is this guy the one known as Katsubo Okuto? Yes. Mizore spoke, he and I had something for a very short period of. It's okay, Mizore-chan. No need to explain yourself, I kind of knew about it already. The shinobi replied, no one should have to have their feelings hurt by someone they thought cared about them. It's not right, no matter what the age difference. Leaping up to the grassy top of the cliff, he set Mizore down and pulled out a handful of shuriken. I doubt he's going to let me get away with that. Stay back so you don't get hurt. No. Mizore spoke, I can help. Naruto sighed, look, I really appreciate your concern, but this guy will be no. Just watch. Mizore interrupted. Her long purple locks suddenly became bright blue, like ice, and her hands transformed into icicle-like claws. Naruto blinked and stared. Whoa. He felt the air temperature dip to below freezing, frost forming at his feet. He stared into the icy blue orbs of Mizore, and felt his cheeks flush, beautiful. Mizore was indeed a sight to behold. She had a fierce look about her now, but at the same time, her icy look sent a not-so-bad chill down Naruto's spine. The Yuki Onna must have heard him, because she blushed, thank you. Graw. The two turned around. A wave of water hit the side of the cliff. Naruto was the first to run towards the edge, and looked to see Okuto clinging to the numerous projections of rocks and roots, making his way up. Who the hell do you think you are, bastard? Okuto yelled, staring straight at Naruto. The Arashi ninja. Perhaps you've heard of me. Naruto answered, earning a growl from the kraken, no. Dang, I was hoping my reputation would have preceded me by now. You're the damn ninja that I've been hearing about. Okuto replied, I was wondering if I'd ever have to deal with you. Okuto suddenly pulled himself up with a mighty heave, landing on the ground where Naruto and Mizore stood. He lashed out with his numerous tentacles while Naruto flipped around, avoiding the numerous appendages with little effort. Because of you I'll have to wait about 2 weeks to fully grow back my tentacle, you brat. Okuto growled, you'll pay for that. Get over it. At least you're too big to be fried. I never tried fried octopus, but I'm partial to fried squid. Can't be that different, right? That little jab seemed to push Okuto over the edge. He roared as he sent forth his 7 tentacles that had not been cut. Naruto made several clones and dispersed in several directions at once. While Naruto managed to distract the enraged gym teacher, Mizore concentrated on bringing forth her powers over ice. The Arashi ninja jumped on top of Okuto's head, delivering a quick foot to the face before leaping off and throwing the shuriken he held in his hands. Okuto blocked with his tentacles, yelling in pain as the metal projectiles embedded into his skin. Now, Mizore said, noticing the shinobi was out of the way for her to attack. She raised both her hands and blasted forth a wave of icy wind. Okuto never had a chance to recover, and was buffeted by the freezing wind. His skin that was covered with water froze in seconds. He struggled to keep moving as he fell to the ground. Naruto landed by Mizore's side. Wow. That's a neat power, Mizore-chan. He laughed as she blushed a bit. Are you like an ice monster of some sort? I'm a Yuki Onna. Mizore replied quietly, avoiding the masked ninja's eyes while blushing. I have control over ice and can freeze water both in liquid and vapor form. Naruto let out a low whistle. Remind me to never piss you off, haha. I only fought one other person in my life with powers like that. They were pretty tough. Thank you, ninja-san. Mizore spoke, giving a little bow. You saved me though. I owe you my life. She gave another deeper bow. I'm grateful. Naruto scratched his head nervously. Hey, it's no big deal. At least you can fight back, right? Your group of friends seems to have the worst of luck when it comes to problems involving monsters, haha. I guess. Mizore reverted back to her disguised state, which wasn't a huge change. Naruto noted, what are we going to do about Katsubo-sensei? Naruto gave a wink. I have help. He snapped his fingers, and his group of clones he had summoned walked up and picked up the frozen mass that was Okuto. A few of the clones griped about getting frostbite while Naruto just waved them on towards the school. Leave a note explaining why he's like that, and someone place a stasis seal on him, otherwise he'll just thaw out. Aye, boss. The clones replied in unison. Mizore giggled as they headed off towards the academy. She turned back to see the Arashi ninja heading towards the woods in the distance. Ninja-san. Naruto looked over his shoulder, and noted the way Mizore seemed to suddenly be focusing on the ground. Before her, "What's wrong, Mizore-chan?" "Well, there's a friend of ours named Naruto." The blonde remained calm upon hearing his name. "Go on." It's just that he's been gone for several days, and we're all worried about him." "I mean, we know he's busy, but it's never been like him to go and just disappear." She looked to the masked ninja. "If possible, do you think that if you by chance see, let him know that we're all worried about him. He's blonde, has these unique whisker mark lines on his cheeks, which Kurumu thinks are really tattoos, but I don't agree with her, and really blue eyes. Blonde hair, blue eyes, unique whisker marks." Naruto suppressed a sigh. "I'll keep an eye open for him, Mizore-chan." "Really?" Mizore smiled. "That really would help. Thank you." "Don't mention it," Naruto replied with a weak chuckle. "Well, I better get out of here." He turned back towards the woods and disappeared with a swirl of leaves. Mizore stood there for a few moments, pondering over what had just transpired. The Arashi ninja had come to her rescue. Out here, near the cliffs facing the ocean. She was pretty sure the chances were very minimal that someone would have saw her before it was too late. Arashi ninja. Mizore sighed a little. He was a mystery, yet she found herself intrigued by the enigma that he was. A ninja that acted like a comic book superhero. She headed onward to the dorms. Looks like she had some gossip to share with Kurumu tonight. Just wait until she heard that the Arashi ninja had saved her and held her in his arms. Oh, she would be seething. Mizore chuckled as she continued home, already formulating the best way to deliver the news. Today was finally the day that the newspaper club would release its first official copy of the newspaper to the students on campus. They were going like hotcakes as students passed by the front gates of the academy. "Wow, the girls handing out the papers are all so cute." "Yeah, but that one girl looks like she's cosplaying a witch or something." Yukari frowned as she forced her hand wand to stay steady. Kurumu gave a chuckle and patted the young girl sympathetically on the back. "Don't worry, Yukari. You've just got that youthful charm. Wow, we've managed to hand out more than half of the papers already." Sukune commented, "Looks like they're better than we thought." Mizore smirked. "It's because we put our pictures on the front cover of the first one as a promotion for introducing the staff." Jin laughed. "What? It's working, isn't it? Out of the way. Move it." Jin looked up to the sound of a commotion from the crowds of students, and bit down a curse. "Great, it's the black suits." The crowds parted as the newspaper club got a good look of who exactly was causing the ruckus. A group of students in varying age groups appeared before them, their apparent leader being a long, blonde-haired man with a rather unnerving, calm smile on his face. He looked upon the group before speaking. "Greetings. I'm Kyuu, the manager of the Public Safety Commission, otherwise known as the Student Police Committee." Mocha looked to the man. "The police committee. So, you're the ones who are in charge of public safety. What can, don't, Mocha." Jin cut in, raising a hand. Mocha looked to the club president, giving him a confused look. He merely shook his head, looking towards the one named Kyuu. Kyuu picked up one of the papers, scanning it over once before tossing it onto the table and kicking over the box of papers. Hey, what are you doing?" Kurumu cried out. The group just watched as Kyuu looked up with a grim expression on his face. "Do you realize what you're all doing by handing out papers that have not gone through my inspection? This is a direct act against the protocols set up by the Public Safety Commission. Anything that you do on campus grounds must be approved by us, first and foremost." Mizore shook her head. "We haven't done anything wrong though." Kyuu sent her a glare. "Oh really?" He pointed to the stack of papers on the ground. "That stack of papers is evidence telling me otherwise. Selfishly doing whatever you want without our approval is a direct disturbance to the safety and order of the academy." Sukune decided to speak up. "How is that a danger to the students? It's just a newspaper." A few of the members of the committee were now stomping on the papers that had been scattered on the ground while Kyuu spoke. "Listen well, newspaper club members. We will continue to crack down on any activities that go against our. Oi, is this where the free newspapers are being handed out?" All of the students looked back to the edge of the campus gates. Sukune was the first to see who had spoken out. "Naruto. There stood the blonde, wearing his green academy uniform and grinning brightly. Hey, Sukune. I thought I heard right about the newspaper club making papers today, so I figured. He stopped as he saw one of the police committee members' feet on a newspaper. What are you doing with their papers? Kyuubi decided to speak. This group is disturbing the order and peace of the academy by distributing products that have not been inspected by us. The whisker-marked blonde raised an eyebrow. Who the hell are you guys? A few of the students in the crowd gasped at the tone Naruto was taking with Kyuubi. We're the Student Public Safety Commission, the police committee is another name we go by. So these are the bastards, huh? Naruto rolled his eyes. How are they disturbing the peace by offering free newspapers? The students around here can choose to read them or not. It's not like they're being forced to take one. Jin recognized the blonde as one of Haji's younger members in the karate club. He was about to speak when Kyuubi replied to the blonde, these articles were unapproved by us. As such, they could contain slanderous and distasteful material that should not. Whatever, you just need to lighten up and worry about the bigger problems around here. Naruto spoke, walking around him and grinning at Yukari. Yukari-chan, I'd like a paper please. I heard Kurumu-chan published our recipe on making perfect banana bread, and I figured I'd. Wham! Naruto felt a sharp pain in the small of his back. He rolled onto the ground a few times before getting up and dropping into a stance, glaring at Kyuubi. I sure hope that was your knee having a muscle spasm, because I do not take kindly to being kicked from behind. You apparently do not understand the authority we have here, Naruto Uzumaki. Kyuubi spoke, yes, we know who you are. We have the names of all students on this campus. Now, I advise you put that paper down and continue about your business unless. You just kicked me in the back and know you expect me to just let it go. Look, pal, I don't know where you're from, but back where I'm from, you'd usually end up getting a good beating for such an underhanded move like that. Mocha spoke up, Naruto-kun, just let it go. We can't give away these. No way, Mocha. These punks think that just because they have uniforms that they can boss everyone around. Kyuubi gave Naruto an even look before turning on his heel. Let's go. The others in the group looked to him before he continued, we have more important matters at hand. He looked over his shoulder, if I should find out that you are continuing to hand out any more of these papers, there will be severe consequences. Naruto spoke up, you really like to abuse your power, don't you? Kyuubi halted in his tracks, turning around to face Naruto fully, what did you say? Naruto didn't blink, you heard me. I've met plenty of jerks like you. You think that just because you're part of some elitist group that you can get away with crap like this. There's a limit to what you can do before you're crossing over into corrupt territory. The air seemed to become heavy for a moment, a few of the students shuddering as Kyuubi and Naruto stared each other down. Naruto didn't budge, immediately adjusting himself to the killer intent that Kyuubi was throwing at him. Naruto just smirked a little, but for a brief moment, Kyuubi felt a sudden chill run down his spine as he looked into the boy's eyes. For barely a moment, the sapphire orbs of the blonde hand changed to a crimson red, but it was so fast he almost missed it. That won't scare me, Kyuubi. Kyuubi's eyes narrowed, you better keep your nose clean, Uzumaki. He looked to the newspaper club before he and the rest of the police committee left, heed my words, newspaper club. As the police committee left, Yukari and Mizore were by Naruto's side, are you alright? He kicked you pretty hard. Naruto just waved it off. Bah, he was a pushover. I've been hit through walls by my old schoolmate and laughed it off. That just earned a perturbed look from the two girls. Jin walked over to Naruto as well as the rest of the group. Jeesh, what were you thinking? Don't you know who you were dealing with there? Naruto snorted, yeah, I heard of them. They're just a group that's lost their dignity and are acting like an organized gang from what I understand. Jin just gave the kid an incredulous, yet somewhat admirable, look. The kid was tough, no doubt about it. Maybe that's why Haji spoke so highly of him. Jin himself felt the strong killer intent coming from Kyuubi. He was pretty sure almost all of the students did, being monsters and whatnot. For this young student to just brush off such killer intent without flinching was truly something. Hey, you know what? I think I can see why my friend Haji talks about you all the time. You're something else, Uzumaki. Naruto blinked, thanks. The blonde took a paper, even after Mocha warned him not to for fear of being reprimanded a second time by the police committee, and headed off to school. He had another hour to kill before classes started anyway, so he may as well do some light reading, he reasoned. As the rest of the students carried on with their activities, the newspaper club went about cleaning up their site, still a bit down about the ruined stack of papers. Well, most of them were cleaning anyway. Mizore seemed to be looking towards the direction Naruto had gone. Kurumu was the first to notice. What's wrong, Mizore? Huh. Mizore blinked, then turned to the succubus. Oh, nothing. What were you looking at? Kurumu asked, a knowing smile on her face, or should I say, who were you looking at? Mizore blushed while looking away from Kurumu. What are you talking about? I saw you watching Naruto-kun leave for school. You sure seemed to be interested in him. She giggled playfully. It's fine, I'd go for him too if I already didn't find Sukune-kun so handsome. Mizore just crossed her arms. It's not like that. He's just good looking. I don't feel that strongly for him. Yet. Yukari added, jumping into the conversation. Mocha was beside the witch, smiling a little as well. Sukune seemed to be talking with Jin about something, so the two boys were not involved with the current conversation. Mizore sighed, I don't know, he's really nice, and sweet, and brave. He has a nice ass, too. Kurumu added while Mocha gave her a light smack on the shoulder, scolding her for not being more serious about the matter. Yukari piped up, so why don't you tell him you like him? Well, Mizore pulled out the sucker in her mouth for a moment, I also like someone else. You do? Mocha asked, who is it? You'll laugh. Mizore said, shaking her head. We won't, we promise. Mocha said, while Yukari and Kurumu gave a nod. The Yuki Onna closed her eyes. I also like the Arashi ninja. The three girls all looked at each other before leaning in closer to Mizore, seriously. Mizore looked to Kurumu and nodded. Why yeah. I was saved by him just the other day. I told you, remember? Well, yeah, you told us about Katsubo-sensei. It's just, I guess it was unexpected. Kurumu replied, I mean, you don't even know him. I know. Mizore groaned, slumping against a tree, it's just, he's a nice guy too. I want to get to know him better as well. The Yuki Onna rubbed her temples. Am I being shallow? No. The three girls said in unison. You're just not making a move, that's all. Kurumu said, I mean, you should try and maybe send hints to Naruto that you're interested in him. The Arashi ninja's cool, sure, but at least you know Naruto. She's right, Mizore. Yukari agreed, we'll help you. Mizore paled a little, help. Mocha nodded, yeah, we can try to get him to notice you more, or, maybe get you two alone. The vampire girl noticed the look on Kurumu's face. What's that grin for? Kurumu let out something between a giggle and cackle. Oh, nothing. I've just always wanted to play Cupid. Now is my chance to show my amazing matchmaking skills. Kurumu continued to laugh to herself while the other three shared uneasy looks. Surely a succubus couldn't be bad when it came to relationships, right? Kyuubi sat in his office within the Public Safety Commission's headquarters, his hands folded as he watched the flickering of a flame from the candle in front of him. The scene of the blonde-haired first year from earlier today replayed in his mind over and over. There was just something about that boy that was off. He usually got the desired effect from letting out a wave of bloodlust, students cowering and rebellious people shutting up. That Naruto though, he's not like the others. Kyuubi said aloud, he'll have to be monitored more closely. He got up and put out the candle with his fingers. Walking out of the room, the image of those red eyes stuck in his mind. Eyes of blood-red color. Kyuubi thought, what is he? What powers does he possess? Kyuubi wasn't sure at the moment, but he never was kept in the dark for too long when it came to secrets that were a danger to Youkai Academy. It was his duty to maintain the peace, after all. He walked into a room with a computer, and logged on. Accessing one of the monster database programs, he searched up a basic profile search on monsters with red eyes. The search brought up about 20 or so types of common monsters with red eyes. He frowned, knowing that he couldn't narrow it down with just those results. He racked his brain, trying to remember the faintest details. Slitted irises. He quickly entered in additional information on eyes, changing the irises to slitted, then entered it into the search. The computer program took a few moments before the results appeared on the screen. Kyuu looked at the screen before his eyes widened a bit, his hands tightening as he gripped the table. The results had narrowed down to 4. He looked over the monsters listed, and grit his teeth. This wasn't good. This wasn't good at all. Thank for listening. Do hope you enjoy. If you guys enjoyed, if you want a next part of this video, like, subscribe and comment down below and turn on the bell notifications, and also check out the other videos that have created and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.